Chapter 989. I'll let you live a little longer. Jianwang sneered. The next battle would be when he killed Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had made the Tianjian sect suffer a great loss. As the young sect master, he had to kill Chu Fengmian to regain the dignity of the Tianjian sect. You talk too much. Chu Fengmian curled his lips. He couldn't be bothered to argue with the immortal slaying sword. Chu Fengmian's eyes fell on the arena. He was ready to watch the battle between Huang Wu and the Demon Emperor. The strength that the two of them had displayed earlier was extremely shocking. It could be said that they had overpowered their opponents all the way to the top four. Moreover, Chu Fengmian knew very well that the two of them were hiding even more. No matter who his opponent was in the finals, Chu Fengmian had to observe carefully. No matter who his opponent was in the finals, it would be a tough opponent. Gu Jin was sitting beside Chu Fengmian. He was also looking forward to the battle. Suddenly, he turned to Chu Fengmian and asked, "Young master, who do you think will win?" Huang Wu and the Demon Emperor were both favored by countless people. They were likely to be the top contenders of this year's 9 Regions Genius Battle. It could be said that reaching this point was almost within everyone's expectations. They were evenly matched. Although the Demon Emperor's cultivation level was lower than Huang Wu's, his previous battle proved one thing. The difference in cultivation level was no obstacle for the Demon Emperor. Fighting across cultivation levels was as easy as drinking water for him. He was definitely a genius among geniuses. Therefore, the outcome of the battle couldn't be judged by cultivation level. The Demon Emperor will win, and it will be easy. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he said slowly. Jianwang, Huang Wu, and the Demon Emperor. Chu Fengmian felt that the Demon Emperor was the only one who could make him feel threatened. Only the Demon Emperor. Chu Fengmian didn't have the confidence to defeat him. As for Jianwang and Huang Wu, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could defeat them. From the looks of it, the victor of this battle was most likely the Devil Emperor. Will the Devil Emperor win easily? Upon hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Gu Jin said in disbelief. She believed Chu Fengmian when he said that the Devil Emperor had won, but did he really win that easily? Huang Wu's strength had been perfectly displayed just now. He was definitely an extremely powerful figure. His strength was countless times stronger than ordinary Celestial Realm warriors. Could it be that the Devil Emperor's strength was still enough to crush Desolate? Take a good look. Watching this battle carefully will be of great benefit to you. Chu Fengmian didn't explain much. From the looks of it, the Demon Emperor and Desolate Void's strength seemed to be on par. But Chu Fengmian knew that the Demon Emperor had hidden himself much deeper than anyone had imagined. The strength that the Demon Emperor had displayed was only the tip of the iceberg. Chu Fengmian wanted to see just how far Desolation could push the Demon Emperor's strength. In the arena, Desolate and the Demon Emperor were already facing each other in the air. Demon Emperor, so what if you have the 12th level of the Heaven's Chosen Stone? Today, you will fall at my feet and become a stepping stone on my path to becoming the champion. Desolate Void said coldly. The Demon Emperor's 12th level of the Heaven's Chosen Stone, his strength, and his invincibility were all giving Desolate Void a chance. Among the young geniuses of the 9 regions, Desolate Void had always been behind Jianwang. The only person that people thought of as the strongest of the young generation was Jianwang, or rather, the Demon Emperor. It wasn't Desolate Void. Today, as long as Desolate Void could defeat the Demon Emperor, it was time for him to prove himself and his strength. Desolate Void. With a furious roar, Desolate Void unleashed all his strength. The vast Desolate Void path condensed under his feet. Facing the Demon Emperor, Desolate Void used his full strength. Desolate Void is going for the kill. This battle is really exciting. Every battle in the 9 Regions Genius Tournament was a battle of life and death. The slightest carelessness could lead to death. In order to compete for the top spot, both Desolate Void and the Demon Emperor could only win. The Desolate Void path under Desolate Void path extended into the depths of the void. Waves of Desolate Void godly power suddenly strengthened his body, causing his cultivation level to rise steadily. The desolate void godly power shot toward the demon emperor in the form of lightning. This desolate void godly power cut through the firmament, shattered space, and slashed through the air. The demon emperor stood in place, his expression unchanged. He didn't even have the intention to attack. The demonic will around him transformed into 10 heavenly demons. The 10 skyfiends gathered their strength at the same time, forming a gigantic palm that slammed forward. Boom! The two forces collided in the air. The demon emperor stood in place, not moving half a step. The 10 skyfiends around him were still guarding him tightly. Desolate void, on the other hand, took 3 steps back. These 3 steps didn't seem like much, but it meant that the demon emperor had won the first clash of strength. The demon emperor hadn't even made a move. The 10 skyfiends around him were already so powerful. The demon emperor said coldly as he looked at Desolate Void. Desolate Void, you're no match for me. Since you're a genius of the younger generation in the 9 regions, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and submit to me, and I'll let you live today. Arrogant. Desolate Void shouted angrily at the demon emperor. He, Desolate Void, was a renowned genius of the 9 realms. How could he possibly submit? Ancient chaos. Suddenly, the ancient antiquity shouted. A halberd suddenly appeared in his hand. Holding the halberd in his hand, Huang Wu's ancient body's power began to rise. He had already reached the peak of the utmost celestial realm, and was about to reach the 9th step of the life and death steps, the imperishable realm. All these changes were due to the halberd in Desolate Void's hand. This halberd was enough to increase Desolate Void's strength by several times. The ancient chaos halberd. It's actually this divine weapon. Isn't this the desolate ancient sect's treasure? It's actually in Desolate Void's hands. The ancient chaos halberd is said to be a supreme expert of the desolate ancient sect. He used his godly power to forcibly take it from the desolate ancient era. It can travel through time and space, and it contains the power of the desolate ancient era. I can't believe it's in Desolate Void's hands. Look, Desolate Void is holding the ancient chaos halberd. His strength is close to Patriarch Wu's. Chapter 990. With the ancient halberd in his hand, Huang Gu's aura was completely different from before. In an instant, his strength was close to that of a Wushang ancestor. The martial artists in the spectators' stand could not believe Huang Wu's change. They did not expect Huang Wu to hide his strength so well. The demon emperor is in trouble now. Huang Wu's strength was close to that of a Wushang ancestor, who was close to the immortal realm. The demon emperor had not even reached the emperor realm yet. Even the demon emperor would find it difficult to bridge the gap between them. The ancient halberd? That's a good thing. It's the ancient sect's treasure. I'll kill you today and take away your ancient halberd. I'll destroy the ancient sect's prestige. The demon emperor looked at Huang Wu's rising strength without any change in his expression. It was as if nothing in the world could cause a ripple in the heart of the ancient desolate. Die! Hearing demon emperor's words, Desolate could no longer hold himself back. Suddenly, he attacked. Holding the ancient halberd in his hand, he attacked demon emperor. The ancient halberd was simply swung in Huang Wu's hand. In the arena, the space shattered and turned into the void. The power was enough to tear the sky apart. The ancient halberd was as powerful as the ancestral dragon supreme sword. Moreover, Huang Wu was a genius who cultivated the ancient path. The ancient halberd in his hand could unleash his full strength. The 10 heavenly demons beside the demon emperor were the first to move. They faced the ancient halberd directly. However, in front of the ancient halberd, the 10 heavenly demons were torn apart and destroyed on the spot. Only a cloud of demonic intent was left floating in the air. The demon emperor's 10 heavenly demons could not withstand the ancient halberd's sharpness. Is the demon emperor going to lose? Many people in the stands had the same thought when they saw this scene. The demon emperor's 10 heavenly demons had been invincible since they appeared. But now, they were torn apart by the ancient halberd. However, this thought had just appeared in everyone's mind. Suddenly, there was a change in the arena. The Demon Emperor suddenly stepped forward. He waved his hand and grabbed the ancient halberd. In the next moment, the ancient halberd flew out of Huang Wu's hand and into the Demon Emperor's. In the blink of an eye, the Demon Emperor actually grabbed the ancient chaos halberd in his hand. Huang Wu is going to lose. Chu Fengmian looked at the scene and muttered to himself. Although the ancient halberd was powerful, it still could not defeat the Demon Emperor. Boom! In the arena, after Mod seized the ancient halberd, he slammed his palm on Huang Wu's chest in disbelief. Huang Wu's bodies, leaving a cloud of blood zest before the martial artists in the stands could react. Desolate had already turned into a cloud of blood mist. He had died on the spot. The Demon Emperor's hands was wuss. Originally, everyone had thought that the Demon Emperor was on the verge of defeat. Desolation, who wielded the ancient chaos halberd, was an expert close to the Wushang Patriarch. But now, he was actually killed by the Demon Emperor with a single palm strike. The Demon Emperor's attack shocked everyone. Even Jian Zhanxian looked at the Demon Emperor in disbelief. He was speechless for a long time. The spectator stands were completely silent. Even when the Demon Emperor left the arena, there was no sound at all. Is this the Demon Emperor's strength? The strength that the Devil Emperor displayed time and time again could be said to be more and more astonishing. Even Huang Wu could not withstand a single attack from him. Among the younger generation of the 9 regions, no one could be his match. The Demon Emperor was as powerful as the ancient ancestor. Even some of the Wushang old ancestors looked at the Demon Emperor with fear in their eyes. Obviously, he was also deeply shocked by the strength of the Demon Emperor. Invincible. That was the only word that could describe the Demon Emperor. He was a true invincible genius. Huang Wu was a famous genius in the 9 regions. He was the idol of many Demon Emperors. Now, in the hands of the Demon Emperor, he couldn't even put up a struggle and was killed on the spot. The Demon Emperor should be the champion of this year's 9 Regions Genius Tournament. Whether it's Chu Fengmian or Sword Immortal, neither of them can be a match for the Devil Emperor. The Demon Emperor said as he looked at the invincible Demon Emperor. If it was said that before, many people still did not believe in the strength of the Devil Emperor because of his realm. But now, no one dared to doubt the Demon Emperor's strength. He killed Huang Wu with a single attack. This was the strength of an ancient ancestor. Some ancient ancestors might not be able to do it. Demon Emperor, hand over the ancient chaos halberd. Just as the Demon Emperor was about to leave the arena, several Wushang ancestors of the ancient Desolate sect suddenly stood up and shouted coldly. This is the treasure of the ancient Desolate sect. Hand it over. Oh? The treasure of the ancient Desolate sect belongs to me now. Naturally, it belongs to me. The Demon Emperor said with disdain. Get lost. Having said that, he ignored the Wushang ancestors of the Desolate Ancient Sect and left the arena with a loud laugh. You! The Demon Emperor's arrogance infuriated the Ancient Desolate Sect's ancient ancestors. But in the 9 Zones Genius battle, the Demon Emperor stood at the edge of the arena. None of them could get close to him. They could only sit down slowly with hatred in their eyes. Clearly, the Demon Emperor and the Ancient Desolate Sect had a deep grudge. It's my turn. The winner of the battle between the Demon Emperor and Huang Wu had been decided. The next battle was between Chu Fengmian and Jian Zhanxian. Chu Fengmian and Jian Zhanxian's names shown in the ancient battlefield. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and stepped into the arena. Jian Zhanxian, who was opposite Chu Fengmian, also couldn't wait to enter the arena. Jian Zhanxian and Chu Fengmian looked at each other with murderous intent. His gaze was sharper than the blade of a sword. Even some patriarchs would be torn apart by a single glance from sword-slaying immortal. But Chu Fengmian didn't care. He just stood there and stared coldly at Jian Zhanxian. Chu Fengmian, you've killed countless disciples of the Desolate Ancient Sect and even cheated us of our sword Dao Totem. You've committed treason. Today, I'll kill you on behalf of the Sky Sword Sect to protect the dignity of the Sky Sword Sect. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian with a cold expression. A huge sword suddenly came out of the sheath on Jian Zhanxian's back. It was the titanic godly sword that had just appeared on the back of the sword tower elder. Now, it was in Jian Zhanxian's hands. Chapter 991. The Titanic Sword. That's the Tianjian sect's most precious treasure. It seems that the Tianjian sect still wants Jian Zhanxian to take first place in the Nine Zones Genius Tournament. They even gave him the Titanic Sword. It seems that it'll be difficult for Chu Fengmian to defeat Jian Zhanxian this time. All eyes fell on the Titanic Sword on Jian Zhanxian's back. The Titanic Sword was a spiritual weapon of the same level as the ancient Chaos Halberd. It was the pinnacle of heaven-grade spiritual weapons. With the ancient Chaos Halberd in hand, Huang Wu's strength was close to that of a Wushang ancestor. As for the sword Immortal Slaying Sword, he was even stronger than Desolate Void. With the Titanic Gate Godly Sword in hand, he was no different from a real Wushang patriarch. No one was optimistic about Chu Fengmian's chances in this battle. Chu Fengmian, I heard that you're also a sword cultivator. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter how strong your body is in a battle of sword cultivators. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. A battle of sword cultivators was a competition of sword cultivators' comprehension of the way of the sword and the gap between their realms. As for Chu Fengmian's bloodline power and body, it was meaningless. Once the sword momentum was broken, he would be defeated. There was no doubt that he would not be defeated. Therefore, Jian Zhanxian was confident that he would win this battle. Because Chu Fengmian was a sword cultivator. When it came to the way of the sword, Chu Fengmian had absolute confidence. One strike. I can kill you with one strike. If you have any last words, say them now. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian as if victory was already in his hands. His attitude was extremely arrogant. However, everyone in the stands knew that although Jian Zhanxian was arrogant, he had the right to be. He was the #1 sword cultivator of the younger generation. Even some of the Wushang ancestors of the Tianjian sect were inferior to him in terms of way of the sword. In everyone's opinion, Jian Zhanxian would definitely win this battle of sword cultivators. There was no suspense. You don't deserve to use this sword. Chu Fengmian looked at Jian Zhanxian but didn't answer his question. Instead, he looked at the Titanic Godly Sword in Jian Zhanxian's hand. The Titanic Godly Sword was once one of the spiritual swords of the Master of Swordsmanship. Now, it had fallen into the hands of the Tianjian sect. The people of the Tianjian sect were not worthy of using this sword. Put down your sword and I'll spare your life. Chu Fengmian calmed down the anger in his heart, looked at Jian Zhanxian, and said word by word. Spare my life? You? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Jian Zhanxian laughed out loud. Chu Fengmian, I didn't expect you to still be so courageous with your words at a time like this. Should I say that you are blindly confident? Or do you not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Not only sword slaying immortal, but even the warriors in the stands were shocked when they heard Chu Fengmian's words. There was an uproar. Is Chu Fengmian crazy? Speaking such big words. Could it be that he's still hiding his strength? How is that possible? It's impossible for everyone to be a demon emperor. Even if Chu Fengmian is hiding his strength, he will lose without a doubt. Many people looked at Chu Fengmian and shook their heads. A demon emperor was a figure that was hard to come by in the 9 zones. The appearance of a demon emperor was already a sensational event in the 9 zones. How could there be a second demon emperor? Especially Chu Fengmian and Jian Zhanxian, who were both sword cultivators. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian's body was, his bloodline, and even his spiritual weapon were all useless. Only if Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship could surpass Jian Zhanxian's could he possibly defeat Jian Zhanxian. But was this possible? Jian Zhanxian's swordsmanship had reached the peak of perfection. He could be called a grandmaster of swordsmanship. In any case, there was no way that Chu Fengmian could defeat Jian Zhanxian. Forget it. I'll kill you and then the Demon Emperor. You two challenge the dignity of the 7 major sections. Today, I, Jian Zhanxian, Will kill you two evil creatures on behalf of the 7 major sects. Sword-slaying immortal's last sentence meant that he didn't continue talking nonsense. Terrifying sword intent rose from Jian Zhanxian's body. At this moment, Jian Zhanxian's aura became completely different. His entire body exuded an invincible aura as he pressed forward. His sword intent was extremely sharp. Anyone who stood in front of him would be killed by his sword. Just like his name, he would slay any immortal venerables that came before him. His swordsmanship could be described as the peak of perfection. His sword had become a part of his body, as skillful as his arms. The sword in his hand suddenly moved. Following Jian Zhanxian's swing, the titanic divine sword struck out a shocking strike. Boom! Before the sword chi was released, the space in front of Jian Zhanxian shattered and turned into a void. He did not even strike out with his sword, but the terrifying power was enough to shatter the surrounding space. If it were outside the ring, all the martial artists in the ancient gladiator arena would be affected. In an instant, the sword chi slashed toward Chu Fengmian. It was so fast that many sovereigns could not see it clearly. It was an extremely fast sword strike. Even sovereigns could not see it clearly, let alone block it. Any sovereign would only have one outcome when faced with this sword strike, and that was to be killed in an instant. There was no suspense. The sword chi is invisible. Jian Zhanxian's swordsmanship has reached this level. Isn't this the rumored realm? It's said that in the history of the Tianjin sect, very few geniuses could reach this level of swordsmanship. I didn't expect Jian Zhanxian to have reached it. A sword cultivator said in a daze when he saw Jian Zhanxian's sword strike. Jian Zhanxian's sword intent had reached the peak of the 9 regions. It was an extremely high realm among the Wushan great ancestors. Who could resist such a sword edge? You're just a grain of rice. How can you shine? Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. The ancestral dragon supreme sword suddenly appeared in his hand. When the sword was unsheathed, a dragon's roar resounded. It was the first time the ancestral dragon supreme sword had been unsheathed in the 9 regions genius tournament. The sword edge on the ancestral dragon supreme sword condensed and burst out with a dazzling light. It slashed out in the air. The 2 sword lights collided in the void. Boom! The rumble shook the sky. Everyone could only see that the space in the ring began to shatter and tear when the 2 sword edges collided. It turned into the initial void. Bang! At the center of the 2 sword edges' power, a figure was suddenly sent flying. Countless gazes carefully looked at the figure. This figure was none other than the sword immortal. After being sent flying for dozens of miles, Jian Zhanxian's figure slowly recovered. Some blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Jian Zhanxian was forced to retreat in this clash of swords. Chapter 992. Chu Fengmian's sword principle is actually comparable to Jian Zhanxian's? He even has the upper hand. How is this possible? Did I see it wrong? Voices of astonishment could be heard as they watched the scene unfold before their eyes. Chu Fengmian had the upper hand in the first exchange of blows between the two. Chu Fengmian stood motionless in the same place, while Jian Zhanxian was sent flying dozens of miles away. Although Jian Zhanxian looked embarrassed, he was not injured. However, Jian Zhanxian's face was a little embarrassed. Jian Zhanxian had just said that he would kill Chu Fengmian with one blow. However, he was the one who was sent flying in the first exchange of blows. This was a blatant humiliation. Feeling the respectful gazes of the venerables in the stands, he felt a burning pain in his face. Even the Wushan progenitors of the Heavenly Sword sect rose to their feet. Their eyes flickered with fear. They knew Jian Zhanxian's strength best. Although the sword immortal slaying hadn't been at full power, it would still be extremely difficult for Desolation and the others to block it. Moreover, Jian Zhanxian was sent flying. This kind of strength was beyond their imagination. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was still very young. He was not even 20 years old. He was more than 10 years younger than the Demon Emperor. If Chu Fengmian was allowed to grow for a few more years, his strength would be beyond their imagination. It was very likely that he would be the next demon emperor. Immortal Slayer, don't hold back. Kill him directly. Elder Jian Ke suddenly shouted from the spectator stand. Jian Zhanxian did not use his full strength. He still wanted to hide his strength to deal with the demon emperor. However, it seemed that killing Chu Fengmian was the most important thing now. They could not let Chu Fengmian survive in the arena today. Hearing Elder Jian Ke's words, Jian Zhanxian nodded. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Chu Fengmian, I didn't think I'd underestimated you. No wonder you're so arrogant. Unfortunately, that strike just now was only a tenth of my strength. I didn't intend to use my full strength to kill you. It's your honor to die under my full strength today. Jian Zhanxian's words caused an uproar. Although Jian Zhanxian was forced to retreat by the sword strike just now, he was still able to defeat Jian Zhanxian. Nonetheless, everyone present could see how terrifying this sword strike was. If it was any other ruler, they would have been seriously injured even if they did not die. Such a terrifying sword was actually 1/10 of Jian Zhanxian's strength. While the crowd was still in doubt, Jian Zhanxian's sword intent changed. The aura on his body was completely different from before. A sharp sword light soared into the sky, and the aura on his body soared crazily. Rumble! Rumble! The ancient gladiator arena was filled with a dull rumbling sound. This rumbling sound was coming from Jian Zhanxian's body. Jian Yu. This is Jian Yu. How long has it been? Jian Yu has appeared among the younger generation of warriors. Sword God Realm. Jian Zhanxian's sword intent is enough to become a god. He has stepped into the Sword God Realm, the supreme realm of Sword Principle. So this is his hidden strength? Sword God, Sword Principle God, this is Jian Zhanxian's true strength. Some of the younger warriors still did not understand what Jian Yu meant. However, some of the Wushang patriarchs knew that this sword melody represented the sword Dao of the immortal slaying sword, which had already reached a supreme level. Sword God Realm. The supreme realm of Sword Principle. Only a sword cultivator who had stepped into the Sword God Realm was qualified to trigger the sword sound. It's been 1,000 years. The Tianjian sect hasn't had a genius in the Sword God Realm for 1,000 years. Good. Senior brother Jian Zhanxian will win this battle. The Tianjian sect will win. Kill! Kill this man! The Tianjian sect disciples in the stands began to exclaim loudly. They were extremely excited. Jian Zhanxian's talent represented the honor of the Tianjian sect. In the arena, beside Jian Zhanxian, the rumbling sound of the sword was heard. The sword intent on his body had already crushed Chu Fengmian. It seemed that as long as he attacked, Chu Fengmian would be crushed. Chu Fengmian, do you have anything to say? Or are you saying that you're scared silly and don't dare to speak? Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed. He showed all his strength. He did not believe that Chu Fengmian could compete with him in the Sword God Realm. The Sword God Realm was the meaning of the Sword Dao apotheosis. Now, the Sword Immortal Sword Dao was enough to reach the apotheosis level. If he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian, it would be a piece of cake. Chu Fengmian, don't worry. I won't kill you so quickly. I'll destroy your cultivation and hang you in front of the Tianjian sect. I'll let everyone know the consequences of provoking the Tianjian sect. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed cruelly. You've just reached the first level of the Sword God Realm. Is it enough for you to be so arrogant? Chu Fengmian looked at Jian Zhanxian's complacent expression and said with a cold smile. Facing Jian Zhanxian, who had shown the Sword God Realm, Chu Fengmian's expression still didn't change. The first level of the Sword God Realm? Chu Fengmian, it seems that you're really stupid. So what if it's the first level? The Sword God Realm is a level that you can never reach. I'll show you the gap between you and me now. Jian Zhanxian said disdainfully. In his opinion, Chu Fengmian's words were just arrogant words. The power of the sword god realm could only be clearly felt when he reached it. It was at a completely different level from other sword principles. Divine Sword of the Sword God. Sword Immortal held the titanic gate godly sword and raised it high. The sword Tao of the sword god realm was fully displayed. The vast and terrifying sword essence was emitted from Jian Zhanxian's body. Even though there were countless restrictions in the ancient fighting ring, the audience in the stands could clearly feel the terror of Jian Zhanxian's sword principle. Invincible. The sword god realm was the symbol of invincibility among sword cultivators. In this battle between sword cultivators, if one party's sword principle reached the sword god realm, there would be no suspense in this battle. All eyes fell on Chu Fengmian. How could Chu Fengmian resist the sword of the sword god realm? The disciples of the Tianjin sect cheered in the stands. There was no doubt that Chu Fengmian would die under this sword. Even if Chu Fengmian's current level was the same as Jian Zhanxian's, it was impossible for him to cross the sword god realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was only in the heart-refining realm. There was no suspense in the result of this sword. Chapter 993. It represented Jian Zhanxian's sword principle godhood. It slashed down from the sky. If they were outside, Chu Fengmian might still have a chance to escape. However, in the ancient gladiator arena, Chu Fengmian did not even have a place to escape. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian with a cold smile, ready to watch Chu Fengmian die under his sword. Chu Fengmian, stop struggling. All your struggles are meaningless. Don't waste your energy. Jian Zhanxian looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed loudly. Especially when he saw Chu Fengmian raise the spiritual sword in his hand, intending to use it to block the attack. His eyes were filled with disdain. He did not believe that Chu Fengmian's sword principle could reach the level where he could contend with him. Among the countless sword cultivators in the 9 regions, there were only a few who could reach the sword god realm. Sword-slaying Immortal was already the youngest person. Furthermore, he had spent a total of 70 years to step into the sword god realm. Chu Fengmian was only in his early 20s. It was almost impossible for him to reach the sword god realm. Sword god realm. Do you think you are the only one who can reach the sword god realm? Chu Fengmian looked at Jian Zhanxian and said slowly. Fine, I'll let you experience what a true sword god is like. The moment Chu Fengmian waved the spiritual sword in his hand, a dull sword sound suddenly rang out beside him. Boom! Rumble! The sword sound was much louder than the sword sound beside Jian Zhanxian. It penetrated the layers of barriers of the ancient gladiator arena and was heard by everyone present. Sword god realm. Chu Fengmian is also in the sword god realm? The martialists in the spectators' stand were stunned, especially the Wushang old ancestors of the Sky Sword sect. They were all dumbfounded now. The sword god realm was a realm that many of their immortal realm Wushang ancestors could not reach. Jian Zhanxian had been the strongest among the younger generation for decades. It was already shocking enough that he could reach the sword god realm. And now, Chu Fengmian had actually reached the level of sword god. What was even more terrifying was that Chu Fengmian was only in his early 20s. A sword god in his early 20s. Even in the history of the 9 zones, there were countless genius sword cultivators and former masters of the sword Tao, but none of them were as monstrous as him. When Jian Zhanxian heard the sound of the sword coming from Chu Fengmian's side, his eyes were filled with horror. His face was extremely gloomy and he revealed a cruel smile. Sword god, very good. Chu Fengmian, you have really surprised me. But so what if you have reached the sword god realm? Your sword Tao is the same as mine, but your realm is far inferior to mine. Today, you will still die. Jian Zhanxian roared ferociously. He was already on the verge of madness. After encountering Chu Fengmian, he was simply being surpassed in every aspect. His dignity as the #1 genius of the 9 regions' younger generation had been destroyed countless times. Now, the sword Tao that he was most proud of, his sword god realm, had actually been surpassed by Chu Fengmian. How could he not go crazy? The only thought in his mind right now was to kill Chu Fengmian. He wanted to kill Chu Fengmian on this stage. Blood essence sacrifice sword. Go to hell. Jian Zhanxian crazily spat out a large amount of blood essence and infused it into the blade of the sword. He did not hesitate to consume his blood essence to increase the power of the sword. He wanted to kill Chu Fengmian with this sword. Same sword Dao? The corner of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. Who said that the sword Dao was the same when one was in the sword god realm? There was a huge gap between the sword god realm and the sword god realm. Sword out. Chu Fengmian held the ancestral dragon supreme sword and faced Jian Zhanxian's sword. He leaped into the air and directly faced it. A dazzling light shone from Chu Fengmian's sword and a shocking sword aura erupted. Rumble. The space in the arena, which had just been condensed, was shattered by the sword. The entire space fell into nothingness. Countless spatial storms were roaring crazily. The most dazzling scene was the confrontation between the two sword auras in the center of the arena. The moment the two swords collided, the entire ancient gladiator ring started to shake. Oh my God! What kind of power is this? Even the ancient gladiator ring is unable to withstand this power. It's actually starting to shake. The ancient arena was a place where even the Wushang patriarchs would fight without any repercussions. However, the collision of the two swords had already caused the ancient gladiator arena to shake. This also meant that the confrontation between the two sword auras was more terrifying than the confrontation between two Wushang patriarchs. The battle between two sword god realm sword cultivators was so terrifying. In the arena, Chu Fengmian's sword intent was fully displayed. With the support of the layers of sword intent, the power of Chu Fengmian's sword aura had increased by thousands of times. The rolling sound of the sword surrounded Chu Fengmian's sword aura and broke through the air. Break! As Chu Fengmian uttered the word break, the moment the two sword auras collided, Jian Zhanxian's sword aura was suddenly broken and a gap appeared. Then, the thunderous momentum was completely devoured by Chu Fengmian's sword aura. In an instant, Jian Zhanxian's sword aura disappeared without a trace. It had been completely devoured. No! Jian Zhanxian roared loudly as he watched his sword aura being devoured without a trace. Impossible. You and I are both in the sword god realm. My level is far higher than yours. How can you defeat me? Jian Zhanxian couldn't believe it. He even felt that it was all a dream. In his mind, he had already used the power of the sword god realm. He would definitely win against Chu Fengmian. The scene in front of him was simply beyond his understanding. There are also differences in the sword god realm. Do you think you have the ability to fight me just because you've reached the sword god realm? Chu Fengmian's eyes were extremely cold. In terms of sword Dao, no one in the entire 9 zones could compete with Chu Fengmian. Even the patriarch of the Tianjian sect couldn't do it, let alone Jian Zhanxian. Differences? Sword god realm differences? Jian Zhanxian was a little dazed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. He had heard rumors about the 9th level of the sword god realm, but he had never believed it. The sword god realm was already the sword god realm. How could there be a higher level? No, it's impossible. Even if there really is a 9th level of sword Dao, it's impossible for you to reach it. Jian Zhanxian shouted in disbelief. It's fake. All of this must be fake. I know. You must have used some trick to deceive all of this. I don't believe that you can resist it. Jian Zhanxian roared crazily. He picked up the titanic sword, condensed the blade again, and slashed at Chu Fengmian. Chapter 994. What a futile struggle. Chu Fengmian glanced at Jian Zhanxian, picked up the ancestral dragon supreme sword, and slashed at Jian Zhanxian again. Boom! The two swords collided, and the sword qi wantonly shook the surroundings. The titanic godly sword in Jian Zhanxian's hand was directly knocked out of Jian Zhanxian's hand. I've said that you don't deserve to use this sword. Hand it over. Chu Fengmian grabbed the titanic godly sword with his left hand, and it immediately fell into Chu Fengmian's palm. On the other side, Jian Zhanxian's right arm was shattered by the powerful sword qi, and his whole body was badly mutilated. Jian Zhanxian, who was arrogant and awe-inspiring just a moment ago, suddenly fell into such a miserable and embarrassing situation. Jian Zhanxian, didn't you want to kill me? You want to hang me in front of the Tianjian sect? Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. He waved his hand, and Jian Zhanxian was immediately caught by Chu Fengmian, and landed in front of him. Chu Fengmian's foot stepped on Jian Zhanxian's face without hesitation, and Jian Zhanxian was under his foot. This scene simply caused the entire viewing gallery to become completely silent. Jian Zhanxian, the young sect master of the Tianjian sect, a genius in the sword god realm, was now under Chu Fengmian's foot. Looking at the crazily roaring Jian Zhanxian under Chu Fengmian's foot, everyone's scalp went numb. Jian Zhanxian was the idol of countless warriors and geniuses in the 9 regions. No one would have thought that he would be in such a sorry state, and be stepped on under someone's foot. The Tianjian sect disciples and the spectators stand were scared silly. After a while, several Tianjian sect's ancestors suddenly reacted and shouted loudly. Let Jian Zhanxian go! Chu Fengmian, let Jian Zhanxian go, and the Tianjian sect will never be your enemy in the future. Several ancestors hurriedly said to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was a madman, and they had no doubt that Chu Fengmian would kill Jian Zhanxian. The number 1 genius of the Tianjian sect for thousands of years could not fall today. Chu Fengmian, let him go. As long as you let him go, the grudge between you and the Tianjian sect will be written off. Spiritual Master looked at Fengmian, and couldn't help but speak. As the supervisor, he couldn't help but speak. Me? Chu Fengmian burst into laughter after hearing the words of the Sky Sword sect's supreme ancestors. Write off the grudge with the Heavenly Sword sect? I don't care. Sooner or later, I'll crush the entire Heavenly Sword sect beneath my feet. Chu Fengmian laughed as he spoke, and stepped on Jian Zhanxian's face again. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Jian Zhanxian was so angry that he was about to go crazy. His face was so red that it was about to bleed. However, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get away from Chu Fengmian's foot. He was firmly under Chu Fengmian's foot, and any struggle was useless. How arrogant! The martial artists in the stands couldn't help but gasp when they heard Chu Fengmian's words. Chu Fengmian's character was simply crazy to the extreme. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was lawless. One day, he would trample the Tianjian sect under his foot. For ordinary martial artists, such words were simply unthinkable, let alone in front of several ancestors of the Tianjian sect. If this man doesn't die, the 9 zones will be overturned. One of the ancestors muttered to himself. With Chu Fengmian's character, as long as he was allowed to rise, he would probably overturn the 7 sections. How arrogant! Kill him! When the 9 zones genius tournament is over, we must kill him. Old Ancestor Wu of the Sky Sword sect was infuriated to the extreme. Since when had they been looked down upon by a junior? Even the Demon Emperor would not dare to say that he would trample the Tianjian sect under his foot in front of several ancestors of the Tianjian sect. Now that Chu Fengmian was trampling on Jian Zhanxian, if he continued to be arrogant, the next one to be trampled under his foot would probably be them. The eyes of the ancestors of the Tianjian sect were filled with murderous intent. They were all ready to take action. As long as the 9 zones genius tournament was over and they left the ancient fighting arena, they would kill Chu Fengmian. Let's save Zhanxian first. Spiritual Master Jian Ke suppressed the anger in his heart and said slowly to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, what do you think will make you let Zhanxian go? Do you still want the Sword Principle Totem? Alright, here is a Sword Principle Totem in exchange for Zhanxian's life. Spiritual Master Jian Ke's mind moved, and a Sword Principle Totem suddenly appeared in front of him. He had already made up his mind to save Jian Zhanxian today, even if he had to pay the price of another Sword Principle Totem. Jian Zhanxian was the number 1 genius of the Tianjian sect for thousands of years. His Sword Principle had already reached the Sword God realm at such a young age. As long as he was nurtured, Jian Zhanxian would definitely become a supreme ancestor. With his sword principle at the sword god realm, he would be an expert among the supreme ancestors. Although the price of using a sword principle totem in exchange for Jian Zhanxian's life was huge, it was worth it. Chu Fengmian, how about a sword principle totem in exchange for Jian Zhanxian? Spiritual Master Jian Ke looked at Chu Fengmian and asked coldly. A sword principle totem? The Tianjian sect is quite generous. Hearing Spiritual Master Jian Ke's words, Chu Fengmian sneered. However, is Jian Zhanxian's life worth a sword principle totem? If you want to trade for Jian Zhanxian's life, sure. 7 sword principle totems. The Tianjian sect should have 7 more sword principle totems. Hand them all over, and I will let him go. 7 sword principle totems. Hearing those words, Taoist Jian Ke was so furious that he was nearly unable to suppress his anger. This was an exorbitant demand. There were only 19 sword principle totems in the entire 9 zones. Moreover, many sword principle totems had been lost in ancient times. No one knew where they had gone. The Tianjian sect, as the number 1 sword principle sect in the 9 zones, only had 8 sword principle totems. Excluding the one given to Chu Fengmian, there were only 7 left. Taking out 1 sword principle totem in exchange for Jian Zhanxian's life was already a huge price. Now, Chu Fengmian wanted to take away all 7 sword principle totems. This exorbitant demand was intolerable. Chu Fengmian, don't go too far. Spiritual Master Jian Ke couldn't help but shout angrily. Do you think you can leave the 9 Zones Genius Tournament alive after threatening the Tianjian sect? Uproar. Everyone was in an uproar. This time, the Tianjian sect and Chu Fengmian had shed all pretense of cordiality. If Chu Fengmian could leave alive after hearing Spiritual Master Jian Ke's words, the entire Tianjian sect would be humiliated. Chapter 995. Are you threatening me? Hearing Immoral Jian Ke's words, Chu Fengmian showed a playful smile. Very well. Chu Fengmian slowly lifted his foot and stomped down on Jian Zhanxian's head. Ah! Jian Zhanxian screamed crazily. This stomp contained Chu Fengmian's spiritual power, and Jian Zhanxian's head was crushed on the spot. However, as a Paramount Realm expert, it didn't take long for his head to regenerate. Even Jian Zhanxian couldn't bear the pain of having his head crushed. This time, I'll give the Tianjian sect one last chance. Hand over all 7 sword Tao totems, and I'll let him go. Chu Fengmian turned to Immoral Jian Ke and sneered. So ruthless. Facing Immoral Jian Ke's threat, Chu Fengmian didn't reply. Instead, he stomped on Jian Zhanxian's head in front of everyone present. This was the best answer. Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of the Tianjian sect's threat. If he wanted to exchange Jian Zhanxian's life, he couldn't leave out any of the 7 sword Tao totems. You! Immoral Jian Ke looked at Chu Fengmian and swallowed the words he was about to say. This kind of threat was useful to ordinary warriors, but it was useless to Chu Fengmian. From the beginning, Chu Fengmian didn't take the Tianjian sect seriously. Chu Fengmian, the Tianjian sect doesn't have 7 sword Tao totems. 3. At most 3. This is our limit. If you kill Jian Zhanxian, you won't get anything. Immoral Jian Ke's eyes flickered as he spoke slowly. The fact that the Tianjian sect had 8 sword Tao totems was only known to the Tianjian sect, and only the Tianjian sect's forefather Wu knew. Other disciples, including some emperors, didn't know. Therefore, he only thought that Chu Fengmian was asking for an exorbitant price. He wanted to exchange 3 sword Tao totems for Jian Zhanxian. I said that I would only give you one chance. Since you don't agree, fine. Chu Fengmian revealed a playful smile when he heard Reverend Jian Ke's reply. At the instant he saw that smile, Taoist Jian Ke felt that the situation was bad. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Chu Fengmian's foot landing on the ground again. When the foot landed on Jian Zhanxian's head, Jian Zhanxian's body was instantly shattered in the air. Jian Zhanxian had fallen. There was no suspense at all. Even if it was an old ancestor, he could not be more dead. Jian Zhanxian was trampled to death by Chu Fengmian. His essence and blood were absorbed by Chu Fengmian and integrated into the divine tree. Chu Fengmian could feel that the divine tree was extremely happy. The more powerful the expert's essence blood was, the more nourishing it would be for the divine tree. The trunk of the divine tree became thicker and sturdier, and Chu Fengmian's body became tougher and tougher. In this 9 regions genius battle, he had killed countless geniuses, and their essence and blood were all absorbed by the divine tree. Every time Chu Fengmian defeated an opponent, his body would become tougher and tougher. In addition, Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was gradually perfected. After every battle, Chu Fengmian's strength would change dramatically. Next, it's the last battle. Chu Fengmian looked at the Demon Emperor. The next battle was between Chu Fengmian and the Demon Emperor. The final of the 9 regions genius battle. Damn it! Taoist Jian Ke could no longer hold back his anger. He cursed loudly. His eyes were gloomy as he talked with the other elders of the Tianjian sect. Today, the Tianjian sect would never let Chu Fengmian go. Demon Emperor, come. Chu Fengmian stood in the arena and did not leave. Because the next battle was between him and the Demon Emperor. I didn't expect that it would be you who came to me. The space in front of Chu Fengmian fluctuated. The Demon Emperor stepped out and landed in the arena. I said that the next time I see you, I will make you kneel in front of me. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with a cold smile. Now, are you ready? What's going on? Does the Demon Emperor have a grudge with Chu Fengmian? The warriors in the stands were puzzled when they heard the conversation between Chu Fengmian and the Demon Emperor. Based on their conversation, Chu Fengmian and the Demon Emperor already had a grudge. Oh? This man has a grudge with the Demon Emperor? It seems that we don't need to do anything. This man is going to die. Taoist Jian Ke said slowly. The Demon Emperor's strength was already close to invincible from what he had just displayed. Although Chu Fengmian had crushed Jian Zhanxian, this was a battle between swordsmen. Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was far superior to Jian Zhanxian's. After all, a battle between swordsmen was about swordsmanship. The Demon Emperor was not just a swordsman. He had shown invincible strength. This battle might be another crushing defeat. No one could stop the invincible Demon Emperor. Oh? I only know that you didn't stop me when I killed those 2 supremacies. How can you be so arrogant now? Chu Fengmian replied with a cold smile. Chu Fengmian had indeed gained the upper hand in this battle. It seems that you want to die. The Demon Emperor's face turned cold when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. The Demon Emperor was almost invincible in his life. The only time he had suffered a loss was at the hands of Chu Fengmian. At that time in the Heavenly Feather Dominion, he couldn't do anything to Chu Fengmian even if he attacked with all his strength. But this time, he had suffered a loss, and it had also become the heart demon of the Demon Emperor. If the Demon Emperor wanted to reach the peak, he had to be invincible. He had to kill Chu Fengmian to end this inner demon. Chu Fengmian didn't participate in the 9 regions genius battle this time. The Demon Emperor would attack Cloud Feather Palace again and kill Chu Fengmian. He would eventually fight Chu Fengmian. Especially this time, Chu Fengmian's performance in the 9 regions genius battle and his 12th level of the Heaven's Chosen Stone made the Demon Emperor even more determined to kill him. There was only one number 1 person in the 9 regions. If he killed Chu Fengmian, he would have no more opponents. Very well. Then I will kill you today. From now on, no one will dare to oppose me. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with killing intent, but his expression was relaxed. He would win this battle. When he fought Chu Fengmian, it was only an incarnation. But today, he was in his true form. Without the suppression of the Heavenly Feather Dominion, it would be easy for him to defeat Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, I'll let you know that everything you've encountered is nothing in front of me. The Demon Emperor laughed heartily. Demonic intent filled the air around him. Boundless demonic intent swept through the entire arena, turning it into a demonic domain. Chapter 996. The 10 heavenly demons had helped the Demon Emperor defeat countless opponents. Only the primordial antiquity had defeated them. However, the 10 heavenly demons devoured the surrounding demonic well after they were formed. The power of the 10 heavenly demons was many times stronger than before. Almost every single one of them was no weaker than a Paramount Realm expert. 10 Paramount Realm heavenly demons attacked at the same time, and the power they unleashed was close to Ancestor Wu's level. 10 heavenly demons? It's just a bunch of demons. Even if the real 10 heavenly demons were reborn, I could kill them, let alone these phantoms. Break! Chu Fengmian looked at the 10 heavenly demons and laughed. He didn't use a sword. Instead, he used his right hand as a claw and attacked the 10 heavenly demons. His claw was condensed by the power of countless dragons in the air, turning into the claw of the war dragon. The ancient battle dragon was the nemesis of demons. The ancient battle dragon blood essence in his body had reached a terrifying 90,000 drops. The battle dragon claw that Chu Fengmian had condensed was no different from the battle dragon claw of the real ancient battle dragon. The claw blasted toward the 10 skyfiends in the sky. Roar! A dragon roar resounded through the world. Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw turned into a huge ancient battle dragon. It roared and attacked with a claw that could tear the world apart. Boom! The claw tore the 10 heavenly demons' demonic will apart. The battle dragon claw swept across the sky. The bodies of the 10 heavenly demons were almost instantly torn apart and completely destroyed. They shattered from the sky and turned into demonic will, which was completely dispersed. Oh! The power of the ancient battle dragon? It seems that your power comes from the bloodline of the ancient battle dragon. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with a sarcastic look. I was wondering what happened to you. So it's just the bloodline of the ancient war dragon. Even if a real ancient war dragon were to come, I would still subdue it and make it my mount. Your bloodline is nothing compared to it. The Demon Emperor said disdainfully. At the same time, his body moved. Endless demonic will emanated from his body. This boundless demonic will suddenly turned into countless martial skills in the air. Countless martial skills formed a huge palm print and bombarded towards Chu Fengmian. This palm contained tens of thousands of martial skills merged into one. The Demon Emperor's martial Dao was no longer restricted to moves. Instead, a casual strike from him was comparable to the combination of tens of thousands of martial skills. A gigantic demonic palm came crashing down from the sky. Is this the true strength of the Demon Emperor? A casual move is enough to contain tens of thousands of martial skills. The martial way of the Demon Emperor has actually reached such a terrifying level. This was the first time the martial artists on the grandstand had seen the Demon Emperor use his full strength. The shocking and invincible strength that the Devil Emperor had displayed before was only a small part of his true strength. His true strength was even more terrifying. Peak of the martial path, this is the peak of the martial path. How could the Devil Emperor reach the peak of the martial path at such a young age? An old ancestor suddenly stood up. He did not hide his surprise and shouted loudly. The peak of the martial path was comparable to the Sword Dao and Sword God realm. It was also a realm that countless martial artists dreamed of reaching. They did not expect the Demon Emperor to show it now. The Demon Emperor's body was many times stronger than the 10 sky demons. The power of this palm was no different from that of an old ancestor. It could be said that the Demon Emperor's current strength was the strength of an old ancestor. Chu Fengmian, this time I fought with you because I did not want to waste my strength. Do you really think that you are a match for me? Ridiculous. I will let you understand the gap between you and me. The Demon Emperor sneered. Heaven Demon Palm. The power of this palm and the mystery it contained were many times stronger than the Demon Emperor's attack that Chu Fengmian had faced in Heavenly Feather Divine Domain. The current Demon Emperor was his full strength. Come on. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold. He held the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in his hand. Sword intent gathered and integrated into his sword. Suddenly, he slashed the sword across the sky. He wanted to confront the palm that was comparable to an old ancestor. The sword slashed across the sky and slashed the Demon Emperor's demon palm. Boom! After a short confrontation, Chu Fengmian's sword shattered in the sky. It was broken by the Demon Emperor's palm. The demon palm immediately fell on Chu Fengmian's body. Boom! A series of explosions sounded around Chu Fengmian. It's over. Seeing the result, the martial artists in the stands muttered to themselves. The Demon Emperor's power was too strong. It was almost invincible. They thought that Chu Fengmian might be able to contend with the Demon Emperor. However, no one expected the Demon Emperor to have such a terrifying power. Invincible. Under this palm, Chu Fengmian would be severely injured even if he did not die. There was no third result. Master. Gu Jin looked at the scene in the arena and couldn't help but worry. If such a terrifying palm landed on Chu Fengmian's body, it was almost certain that Chu Fengmian would die. That's all. In the arena, the Demon Emperor sneered as he looked at the explosion below. However, before he could even finish his words, a sword into the sky from the explosion. Is that so? Demon Emperor, it's too early for you to be proud. Chu Fengmian's figure soared into the sky. He held the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and slashed at the Demon Emperor. Although Chu Fengmian's clothes were a little disheveled, his body was completely unharmed. Chu Fengmian is not dead? And unharmed? How is this possible? Chu Fengmian is unharmed by such a terrifying palm? Just how tough is his body? The martial artists in the stands looked at Chu Fengmian in shock. Although they knew that Chu Fengmian's body was extremely tough, they still didn't expect him to be unharmed under such a powerful palm. In the past, there was no way Chu Fengmian would have been able to withstand this palm without being injured. But in the Nine Realms Geniuses competition, Chu Fengmian had killed countless geniuses, and the Divine Tree had also devoured countless amounts of blood essence. Chu Fengmian's body had grown much stronger. Coupled with the power of the ancient Dragon Emperor body, he was able to withstand this palm without being harmed. He's not dead? Chapter 997. The Demon Emperor thought that Chu Fengmian would be severely injured even if he did not die. Now, Chu Fengmian was unscathed, as if he was mocking his strength. Looking at Chu Fengmian's sword, the Demon Emperor snorted and waved his sleeve. Endless demonic will bombarded Chu Fengmian, forcing him to retreat again. Chu Fengmian, I didn't expect you to hide your strength. Very well, I didn't want to use my full strength to deal with you. Since you don't want to give up, I'll let you know. The Demon Emperor's eyes were cold, and endless demonic will was emitted from his body. The demonic will soared into the sky, and the aura of the Demon Emperor's body rose crazily. In an instant, thousands of demonic wills gathered in the Demon Emperor's palm and bombarded Chu Fengmian again. The moment the palm was launched, the ancient gladiator arena trembled as if it was the end of the world. Doomsday Demon Palm. The power of the palm was 10 times more terrifying than the Demon Emperor's palm. Doomsday Demon Palm. It's rumored to be one of the most terrifying martial techniques of the 6 demon sects. Very few people in the 6 demon sects have succeeded in cultivating it. I didn't expect the Demon Emperor to have succeeded in cultivating it. 10 times the strength. The Demon Emperor is still hiding his strength? The crowd went crazy when they saw the Demon Emperor's strength rising crazily. When the Demon Emperor attacked just now, his strength was comparable to old ancestor Wu's. The crowd thought that it was the Demon Emperor's full strength. After all, the Demon Emperor was only in the heart-refining realm, and he had not become an emperor yet. However, the strength of the Demon Emperor's palm was 10 times more terrifying than the previous one. 10 times the strength of old ancestor Wu's palm. What did that mean? Even old ancestor Wu would have a hard time resisting it, and he might even die on the spot. Too strong, too strong. The Demon Emperor's strength is indeed invincible. No one can compete with him. Seeing the Demon Emperor's strength, many martial artists and geniuses felt defeated. Even if they spent their whole lives and encountered countless opportunities, they might not be able to compete with the Demon Emperor. He was truly invincible. They looked at Chu Fengmian with pity in their eyes. The strength that Chu Fengmian showed was also earth-shattering. He defeated Jian Zhanxian and forced the Demon Emperor to show his strength. If there was no Demon Emperor in this era, Chu Fengmian. Unfortunately, the Demon Emperor was a huge mountain that no genius could surmount. Hiding his strength? Seeing the Demon Emperor's palm strike, Chu Fengmian sneered. Emperors not hide his strength, did not hide his strength. Chu Fengmian stood in place. Suddenly, two completely different spiritual energies, one ice and one fire, were emitted from his body. The two spiritual energies merged into Chu Fengmian's sword at the same time. The sword emitted a hissing sound as it continued to accumulate power. Ice fire divine body. It gods, the emperor, it. For the use it. It a use, it. It uses. Was. It was Chu Fengmian's biggest gain from the House of Storms. Chu Fengmian had never used the power of the ice and fire divine physique because he could crush others without using it. But he had to use his full strength to deal with the Demon Emperor. Innate godly body. It's the power of the innate godly body. Chu Fengmian hid his strength. He has the innate godly body? This time, even the progenitors of the top 7 sects were stunned. Chu Fengmian was a big problem for the 7 sections. They had checked his information countless times. Therefore, the swordsmanship and the strength of Chu Fengmian's body were traceable. It was not enough to surprise them. However, the moment the divine body of ice and fire was revealed, they could no longer suppress the shock in their hearts. They stood up regardless of everything. Even they did not know where Chu Fengmian got the power of the innate godly body. The stands, which had been quiet, were in an uproar. From their point of view, this battle that had no suspense was actually still going on. Countless gazes were fixated on the arena, afraid that they would miss out on this exciting battle for even a second. In the arena. Just as the Doomsday Demon Palm was about to hit, the power of Chu Fengmian's sword was finally ready. The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword began to roar crazily. Chu Fengmian held the sword in his right hand and slashed at the Doomsday Demon Palm. The dazzling sword light stung everyone's eyes. Ice and Fire Divine Sword. Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. The power of the innate godly body of ice and fire was integrated into the sword. The sword that was condensed was almost the full power of the innate godly body. Hiss. The two forces suddenly exploded in the air. There was nothing fancy about it. It was a battle of pure strength. The explosion in the air lasted for a long time. Suddenly, the sword light of ice and fire devoured the power of the Doomsday Demon Palm. The dazzling sword light blasted at the Demon Emperor. What? The moment the Demon Emperor saw the sword light slashing towards him, a look of shock appeared on his face. How could his palm be defeated in a battle of strength? Damn it! Damn it! I will never be defeated. I have experienced countless hardships. I am the Demon Emperor. I want to unify the 9 regions. How could I be defeated? 6-Path Seed, activate. As the sword light neared, the Devil Emperor suddenly roared. Pitch-black scales suddenly appeared on his body and wrapped around him tightly. Rumble. The Ice and Fire Divine Sword slashed at the Demon Emperor's scales and exploded with shocking power. It's useless. No matter how strong your sword is, it can't break my defense. The appearance of the Demon Emperor had already transformed into the appearance of a demon god. He used the black scales on his body to resist Chu Fengmian's sword. It's demonization. The Demon Emperor still has this trick up his sleeve. Looking at the Demon Emperor's appearance, the martial artists present realized the Demon Emperor's identity. The most terrifying move of the Demon Dao martial artists was demonization. Demonization was the only way they could go all out. As the successor of the Six Paths Demon Gate, the Demon Emperor naturally knew how to demonize. However, when they saw the Demon Emperor's strength, they forgot about it. Chapter 998. Primogenitor Heavenly Demon. Chu Fengmian looked at the Demon Emperor and slowly uttered these 4 words. Most of the warriors in the 9 regions had only heard of demonization, but they didn't know the true origin of demonization. Any disciple who cultivated the demon path had to integrate a drop of demon blood into their bloodline at the beginning of their cultivation. Only then could they possess the true demon will. The strength of the heavenly demon integrated with the essence blood determined the power of demonization and also represented the appearance of demonization. The Demon Emperor's demonized appearance was the most terrifying primogenitor heavenly demon of the heavenly demon clan. In the ancient times, it was an existence comparable to the Dragon Emperor of the ancient War Dragon clan. Primogenitor heavenly demons were few in number and had disappeared in the ancient times. In most of the rumors and ancient records, the primogenitor heavenly demons should have all been killed in the ancient times. Chu Fengmian didn't expect the Demon Emperor to devour the essence blood of the primogenitor heavenly demon to cultivate his demon body. Oh? It seems that you know quite a lot. You can even see my demon body. The Demon Emperor laughed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Since you know, you should understand the terror of the primogenitor heavenly demon. I didn't expect you to have an innate divine body. Great, after devouring your bloodline, my strength can be further improved. Primogenitor heavenly demon. 10,000 demons descend. The Demon Emperor stood in the air and roared. The demonic will that filled the sky above the arena suddenly began to condense. In an instant, it had all transformed into the appearance of a demonic god that filled the sky. 10,000 demons descend. From the clouds in the sky, drops of blood rain fell. The sky darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. It formed a scene of 10,000 demons descending in heaven and earth being destroyed. The power of 10,000 demons condensed with the power of the Demon Emperor's body and condensed on the Demon Emperor's fists. He bombarded Chu Fengmian with punches. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed proudly. You are the first genius of the younger generation to be able to force out my demon body. Unfortunately, you will die in my hands today. On the other side, Chu Fengmian didn't speak. He didn't even answer the Demon Emperor's words. Chu Fengmian held the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and was still accumulating power to attack the Demon Emperor with the sword. Chu Fengmian is still not admitting defeat? Is he courting death? The warriors in the stands looked at Chu Fengmian one by one. Seeing that Chu Fengmian didn't intend to admit defeat and wanted to continue fighting, many people sighed. To be able to force the Devil Emperor to this extent, Chu Fengmian had already done pretty well. As long as Chu Fengmian didn't die today, Chu Fengmian would definitely have some accomplishments. Was the demon Heavenly Demon Supreme Heavenly Demon have the Heavenly Demon Supreme Heavenly Demon Supreme Demon? Otherwise, when Chu Fengmian was forced into a corner, he wouldn't even have the chance to admit defeat. Admit? Heavenly Emperor Heavenly Tian God at Heavenly Heavens of us Heavens TS. Demon S, TT. Breaking the firmament with a sword. The power of the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was condensed to the extreme. He suddenly unsheathed the sword. The sword was unsheathed, and the sword aura soared into the sky. The dazzling sword light filled the entire arena. Countless demon gods were shattered the moment they came into contact with the dazzling sword light. The sword light soared into the sky, and its target was the Demon Emperor. It's just a futile resistance. Blood rain, demons of heaven and earth. The Demon Emperor shouted coldly. He activated his spiritual energy and pointed his finger. Amidst the rain of blood, it transformed into a gigantic blood-colored demon god and charged towards Chu Fengmian's sword light to block it. Do you think your demonic will can block my sword? Chu Fengmian's eyes shone with colorless flames. Suddenly, a layer of colorless flames condensed on the sword aura and surrounded the edge of the sword aura. The blood-red demonic god was instantly ignited by the colorless flame. The demonic will within the demonic god was completely incinerated by the colorless flame. The colorless flames ignited the demon will, and in an instant, the sky turned into a sea of flames. Countless demon gods were being burned by the colorless flames. Even the colorless flames were closing in on the demon emperor. What kind of flames are these? Are they enough to burn the demon will? Dragon flame? No, it's not dragon flame. What kind of flames are these? When they saw the flames appear, everyone guessed that it was dragon flame. Chu Fengmian had the bloodline of the ancient war dragon, so it was not unusual for him to use dragon flame. However, the colorless flames were not golden dragon flame. It was a medicine King Valley Wushang ancestor. Suddenly, his eyes widened. Pure Yang heavenly flame. This is the purest pure Yang heavenly flame of the upper 9 heavens. Pure Yang heavenly flame. The moment these 4 words were shouted, the eyes of countless Wushang ancestors were filled with shock. Even with their experience, they were incomparably shocked when they heard these words. Pure Yang heavenly flame was known as the ultimate flame in the world. It was enough to burn everything. It was a flame that only existed at the highest point of the upper 9 heavens. Ordinary martial artists could not even touch it. Now, Chu Fengmian was able to control the pure Yang heavenly flame? How many trump cards does Chu Fengmian have? The Wushang ancestors of the Tianjian sect couldn't help but curse when they saw Chu Fengmian reveal one trump card after another. Chu Fengmian was only 20 years old. How could he have so many fortuitous encounters? Moreover, they were all heaven-defying fortuitous encounters. The stronger Chu Fengmian was, the more unfavorable news it was for them. Now, these Wushang ancestors were looking forward to Chu Fengmian dying at the hands of the demon emperor. That would be enough to save them a lot of trouble. You can control the pure Yang heavenly flame? In the arena, the demon emperor was as shocked as the others when he saw the pure Yang heavenly flame. Pure Yang heavenly flame was the purest flame in the world. It was also the most difficult flame to control. In history, there were very few people who could control it. What made him even more embarrassed was that the pure Yang heavenly flame was enough to burn the demon will. Even he could not escape the burning of the pure Yang heavenly flame. Let's go! The demon emperor did not hesitate and hurriedly retreated. The arena was so big that even the pure Yang heavenly flame would need some time to cover the entire arena. As long as he could avoid the pure Yang heavenly flame, he was still confident that he could kill Chu Fengmian. Trying to escape? Chu Fengmian naturally saw the demon emperor's retreat. Murderous intent suddenly emerged from Chu Fengmian's eyes. Chapter 999. Once the demon emperor demonized, his body would be strengthened by the power of the primordial heavenly demon. Even Chu Fengmian's sword couldn't break the demon emperor's body. However, this was only when the demon emperor resisted with all his strength. Once he revealed a flaw, he wouldn't have such a strong body. This was the opportunity for Chu Fengmian to kill the demon emperor. Now, Chu Fengmian deliberately used the pure Yang heavenly fire to force the demon emperor to reveal a flaw. Now that he retreated, it gave Chu Fengmian the best opportunity. Sword break! Behind the pure Yang heavenly fire, Chu Fengmian's sword chi suddenly burst out. The sword chi of thousands of feet suddenly slashed toward the demon emperor. Hiss! The sword chi of thousands of feet came in front of the demon emperor in an instant and slashed toward the demon emperor's chest without hesitation. Not good. The demon emperor suddenly felt a sense of danger in his heart. He felt the sharpness of the sword chi. The demon emperor immediately gathered all the energy in his body and used it to strengthen his physical body. You want to resist now? It's too late. 9 realms sword technique. 10,000 sword strike. Chu Fengmian pointed the tip of his sword, and within the tens of thousands of sword chi, there were tens of thousands of sword techniques. Each sword chi was recorded in the 9 realms sword technique. Each of them had been completed. The power of thousands of swords merged into one. Supported by the sword chi of thousands of feet, it slashed toward the demon emperor. Die! Chu Fengmian's sword chi swept across the sky. The demon will around the demon emperor was completely wiped out by Chu Fengmian's sword chi. Boom! The sword chi of the sword chi hit the demon emperor's body. Under the dazzling sword light, a crack began to appear on the demon emperor's body. Gradually, his body continued to split. Finally, in front of the sword chi, he was torn into pieces and disappeared in the arena. Silence. Many of the warriors in the stands didn't react. Their minds were frozen at the scene of the demon emperor being torn into pieces. The demon emperor fell just like that? Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at the arena. That was the demon emperor, the emperor of the demonic Tao, the 12th level of the Heaven's Choice Stone. He was an almost invincible figure. He died just like that? Had he died under Chu Fengmian's sword and been obliterated by the sword light? Even when Chu Fengmian took out the pure yang skyfire, not many people thought that Chu Fengmian had any hope of defeating the Devil Emperor. That was because even the pure yang heavenly flame could only restrain the demon emperor. The difference in strength was still there. However, this sword edge had killed the demon emperor on the spot. This meant that Chu Fengmian's power had surpassed the demon emperor's. Even if they were to witness this scene with their own eyes, no one would dare to believe it. No, Chu Fengmian hasn't won yet. One of the sovereigns suddenly realized that the Nine Zones Genius battle wasn't over yet. The demon emperor's body was destroyed by Chu Fengmian's sword in front of everyone. But the Nine Zones Genius battle wasn't over yet. The Nine Regions Genius battle had to end with the champion. This was all controlled by the artifact spirit of the ancient arena. Since the Nine Zones Genius battle wasn't over yet, did that mean the demon emperor wasn't dead yet? This terrifying thought suddenly appeared in everyone's minds. How could the demon emperor still be alive under such a sword light? Very good, very good. Chu Fengmian, you're worthy of being a 12th level Heaven's Chosen Stone. You're actually able to destroy one of my incarnations. Your strength is beyond my imagination. A domineering voice suddenly sounded in the air. When everyone in the spectator stands heard this voice, their eyes widened so much that they almost fell out of their sockets. Even the Wushang progenitors were no exception. This voice belonged to the demon emperor. The demon emperor wasn't dead yet. Apart from the disciples of the Six Paths Demon Gate, the only one who remained calm was Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian didn't leave the arena because he already knew that the demon emperor had the ability to create incarnations. The one fighting Chu Fengmian was actually just one of the demon emperor's incarnations. Whoosh! Boundless demonic intent suddenly condensed and the demon emperor's figure appeared in the air. Moreover, it wasn't just one figure. 2 figures, 3 figures, 4 figures, under everyone's gaze, a total of 7 figures of the demon emperor appeared in the arena. The aura and appearance of each figure were exactly the same as the demon emperor. Are these illusions? No, these demon emperors all have power. They're not illusions. Looking at the 7 identical demon emperors on the stage, some of the Wushang ancestors suddenly thought of a terrifying rumor. Nirvana Divine Body? The demon emperor has the Nirvana Divine Body? Among the innate divine bodies, there were 3 to 4 divine bodies that could create incarnations. However, if there were 7 incarnations, only the Nirvana Divine Body could do all this. The Demon Emperor had the innate Divine Body, and the most terrifying one, the Nirvana Divine Body. The incarnations created by the Nirvana Divine Body were exactly the same as the original body. There was no difference. The Nirvana Divine Body could create 9 incarnations. In addition to the original body, it was 10 times the strength of an ordinary Demon Emperor. The one fighting Chu Fengmian just now was just one of the incarnations. Now that 7 incarnations had appeared and attacked together, wouldn't their strength be 7 times the previous one? Thinking of this, all the warriors present sucked in a breath of cold air, and their expressions were extremely exaggerated. One incarnation of the Demon Emperor was the representative of invincibility. If it weren't for Chu Fengmian, the young geniuses of the 9 regions wouldn't even be qualified to force the Demon Emperor to show his true strength. Now, the 7 incarnations had appeared at the same time. 7 demon emperors attacking together. Even Chu Fengmian couldn't be a match for them. It's over. Chu Fengmian is going to die. The demon emperor is really angry. Since the demon emperor chose to reveal his trump card, it means that he wants to kill Chu Fengmian. All the martial artists present looked at Chu Fengmian with pity in their eyes. At this time, the demon emperor chose to reveal his trump card to kill Chu Fengmian. With the 7 demon emperors attacking together, Chu Fengmian had no chance to surrender even if he wanted to. In the arena, the 7 demon emperors looked together. Suddenly, one of them spoke slowly. It seems that you're not surprised? Chu Fengmian's expression was as cold as usual. This was beyond the demon emperor's expectation. This was because once his clones appeared, many warriors would be scared out of their wits. Chu Fengmian was the only one who was as calm as him. The demon emperor changed the topic. Or are you thinking of how to beg for mercy? Chapter 1000. Unfortunately, Chu Fengmian, even if you beg for forgiveness today, this emperor will not let you go. If you kneel on the ground and are willing to submit to this emperor and become this emperor's slave, then this emperor can consider letting you live. MOD looked at Chu Fengmian with a look of victory. In order to deal with Chu Fengmian, a total of 7 incarnations appeared. When Chu Fengmian just defeated the incarnation of MOD, it was enough to make Chu Fengmian spend a lot of energy. He even forced out a flaw of MOD, which gave Chu Fengmian an opportunity to kill this incarnation. Now that it was 7 against 1, Chu Fengmian had no chance of winning. The other martial artists had the same thought as the demon emperors. If the 7 demon emperors were to attack together, even old ancestor Wu would be killed instantly. Chu Fengmian was the same. Looking at Chu Fengmian's silence, everyone was guessing whether Chu Fengmian was considering. Although it was humiliating to be a slave, it was enough to survive. And now, the only outcome of resisting MOD was death. Finally, Chu Fengmian slowly opened his mouth. Have you always talked so much nonsense? Chu Fengmian looked at MOD with a somewhat impatient look in his eyes. Uproar. At this time, Chu Fengmian's words caused an uproar. It was even more intense than when Chu Fengmian said that he would kill MOD. If it was said that Chu Fengmian had a trump card when he fought with MOD before, it could be said that he had the capital to be confident. But now, Chu Fengmian was not facing 1 MOD, but 7. 7 MOD attacked together, Chu Fengmian would be blasted into pieces in an instant, and there was no possibility of resistance. At this time, Chu Fengmian was still provoking MOD? Could it be that Chu Fengmian still had a trump card? Enough to kill 7 MOD? The warriors in the stands couldn't help but shake their heads. It was absolutely impossible. Even if Chu Fengmian still had a trump card, it was already the limit to fight 1 against 2. As for fighting 1 against 7, there was no possibility of it at all. It was absolutely impossible for anyone to achieve this step. The smile on MOD's face gradually disappeared, replaced by a cold expression. Are you provoking me? Do you think you can find my weakness by angering me? My strength is beyond your imagination. No matter what plans you have, they are meaningless in front of me. You killed 1 of my incarnations. Today, I will suppress you and make you my slave to make up for it. The 7 demon emperors who were standing in the air suddenly emitted a thick and huge demonic will that surrounded the 7 demon emperors. Devilish will danced in the air, and the silhouettes of the 7 devil emperors appeared. All of them had demonized, taking the appearance of the 7 ancestral heavenly devils. The demon emperor had a nirvana divine body. The power of each of his incarnations was no different from his true body. Every single one of his avatars possessed the ability to demonize. Under the rolling devil will, the space in the arena began to distort. What kind of power is this? Surpassing old ancestor Wu, this power has already surpassed old ancestor Wu's power. It's too terrifying. The demon emperor has not stepped into the sovereign realm, how can he have such terrifying power? Many old ancestors from the 7 major sects were shocked. Looking at the power displayed by the Demon Emperor, all of them were trembling. This power made them feel a kind of unstoppable terror. Even if the opponent in the arena was them, old ancestor Wu, they could not withstand the Demon Emperor's attack. 7 times the power from before. Boom! In the arena, the 7 Demon Emperors gathered their power to the extreme and attacked together. The Doomsday Demon Palm struck again. A total of 7 Doomsday Demon Palms merged into one. The incarnations of the Demon Emperors were all in one body. When they cooperated with each other, there was no flaw. It was much more terrifying than the 7 old ancestors joining forces. The power of the Doomsday Demon Palm was not just 7 times, it was close to breaking through the critical point, bursting out dozens of times the power. The moment the Doomsday Demon Palm fell, countless blood rain filled the sky. It was really a scene of doomsday. The Doomsday Demon Palm enveloped the entire arena. No matter where Chu Fengmian hid, it was meaningless. This palm represented the end of the world. Boom! Before the palm fell, Chu Fengmian felt an immense pressure. His bloodline was trembling. Even the divine tree felt the danger of being destroyed. It erupted with its most powerful power to support Chu Fengmian's body. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's power had reached its peak. All of his encounters had been revealed. You still want to struggle and resist? In front of this emperor's power, all your struggles are meaningless. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed loudly. Now that you've forced out my 7 incarnations, you can die without regrets. The Demon Emperor laughed loudly. The power of the Doomsday Demon Palm became stronger and stronger. It descended from the sky. The terrifying pressure made the martial artists in the stands somewhat breathless. The power of the Doomsday Demon Palm was transmitted through the countless restrictions of the ancient arena. It was not even 1,000th of its true power, but it was enough to make countless emperors breathless. Not to mention Chu Fengmian, who was in the middle of the arena. This was the strongest opponent Chu Fengmian had faced since his rebirth. It was also the most difficult and dangerous battle he had faced since his rebirth. Chu Fengmian was born against the heavens and contained great luck. The Demon Emperor also had the aptitude of the 12th level of the Heaven's Chosen Stone and inherited the will of the heavens. Between the two of them, only one could survive. Chu Fengmian felt the power that was about to destroy him, but there was no fear in Chu Fengmian's eyes. He had already died once. He would not be afraid of death again. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had inherited the bloodline of the War Dragon. The ancient War Dragon would fight to the death. The War Dragon is indestructible. The ancient Dragon Emperor body. The support of the divine tree, the divine power of creation, the divine body of ice and fire. From Chu Fengmian's body, all of his encounters were revealed. Layers of power once again supported Chu Fengmian's body. Vaguely, Chu Fengmian's power was several times stronger than before. He even condensed a sword edge to resist the demonic will. Chu Fengmian still intends to fight. The martial artists in the stands looked at Chu Fengmian's power that was still rising and exclaimed. Chapter 1001. Under such pressure, even some sovereigns and even great ancestor Wu's will would collapse and they would not dare to fight anymore. However, there was not the slightest bit of fear in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Chu Fengmian's will was firm to the extreme. After passing this stage, Chu Fengmian's future was limitless. He might even surpass the Devil Emperor. This was because Chu Fengmian was 10 years younger than the Devil Emperor. If Chu Fengmian was given another 10 years, Chu Fengmian might be able to compete with the Devil Emperor. However, this possibility was too small. The Devil Emperor was determined to kill Chu Fengmian today. He would not give Chu Fengmian any chance. Especially this palm, which even great ancestor Wu could not resist. Chu Fengmian's countless encounters, and all his strength was added to his sword. The battle dragon bloodline was boiling. Sword intent limitless. Sword of heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian held the spiritual sword in his hand and slashed out in the air. Sword Chi soared into the sky and turned into a roaring ancient battle dragon in the air. The ancient battle dragon tore through the sky. It contained Chu Fengmian's strongest sword and slashed toward the Devil Emperor. It's useless. This is your strongest sword. Watch me crush your sword. The Devil Emperor snorted and waved his hand in the air. The Doomsday Demon Palm immediately grabbed at the ancient battle dragon. The two forces collided in the air. Boom! The ancient gladiator arena shook as if the sky and earth were turned upside down. For a moment, there was chaos. The martial artists in the stands could not help but condense their spiritual power to resist the aftermath of the collision of the two forces. Crack! A few cracks suddenly appeared on the ancient gladiator arena's restriction. The ancient gladiator arena that had been passed down since ancient times had cracks on its restriction. Not good, quickly attack. Sage Jiankei's expression changed as he shouted loudly. Once the ancient gladiator arena was destroyed, not many of the martial artists present would be able to survive. Shrouded in such a spiritual power collision, even a sovereign would find it difficult to resist the aftermath. The dozens of great ancestors present acted at the same time. Countless spiritual powers suppressed the fluctuations of the ancient gladiator arena. Only when the restriction was completely repaired did they finally heave a sigh of relief. At this moment, their gazes hurriedly turned to the arena to check the result. Roar! The primordial war dragon's sword was completely destroyed by the Doomsday Demonic Palm. It let out an unwilling roar and shattered in the air. The remaining power of the Doomsday Demon Palm fell on Chu Fengmian's body. Crack! Chu Fengmian's body began to crumble under the power of the Doomsday Demonic Palm. After being strengthened by the Tree of God, his physical body had reached a level of unparalleled toughness. Chu Fengmian's body, which surpassed a heaven-grade spirit artifact, began to crumble in front of the Doomsday Demonic Palm. Even the vitality of the Divine Tree and the power of the Battle Dragon art could not repair Chu Fengmian's body. In the face of this Doomsday Demonic Palm, they would gradually be destroyed. No one can destroy me. I was born against the heavens, so even the 12th level of the Heaven's Choice Stone cannot destroy me. Only I can sit at the peak of the 9 zones. Chu Fengmian shouted angrily as he felt his body shattering. I am the Sword Emperor. In the air, endless sword intent fell from the sky and fell on Chu Fengmian's body. This sword intent seemed to fall from the heavens, penetrating the layers of restrictions of the ancient arena and strengthening Chu Fengmian's body. Behind Chu Fengmian, the words 9 zones were shining brightly. I am the Sword Emperor. I am the Sword Emperor. How is this possible? Enlightened Jiankei's eyes were already lifeless. Sword intent descended from the heavens. I am the Sword Emperor, the last level of the Sword God realm. In the current 9 zones, no one could reach this level, but now it had appeared on Chu Fengmian's body. What kind of sword intent is this? It actually broke my demonic intent? Demon Emperor, who was in the arena, was equally confused when he saw the changes in Chu Fengmian's body. However, his eyes were clear. With the support of the sword intent, Chu Fengmian's strength was countless times stronger than before. Chu Fengmian was too monstrous, as if he had unlimited potential. As long as Chu Fengmian didn't die, he could surpass and break through. Such a person must be killed in one blow. Doomsday Demonic Palm. Demonic Dance. The Demon Emperor roared again, condensing his demonic intent, and struck out the Doomsday Demonic Palm. This time, countless demonic intents turned into a group of demons in the air. This time, the Doomsday Demonic Palm was even more powerful with the help of the demons. The Demon Emperor didn't intend to give Chu Fengmian any chance to breathe. He had to take the opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian to prevent future troubles. I am the Sword Emperor. I have finally reached this level. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold. He had finally reached this level. Chu Fengmian's sword principle was at the 1st level. In this dangerous place, it is indeed enough to force out my potential. After Chu Fengmian obtained the 2 sword principle totems and comprehended the unknown swordsmanship of the sword principle totems, Chu Fengmian felt that his sword principle was about to break through. But it was precisely this opportunity that he lacked. The battle with the Demon Emperor was a battle of life and death. The moment of life and death was the best opportunity. From this moment on, this battle should be reversed. Chu Fengmian looked at Chu Fengmian with a murderous gaze. Seeing this gaze, the Demon Emperor instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he quickly suppressed it. At this time, his mind couldn't be disturbed. So what if Chu Fengmian had broken through? He was the Demon Emperor, an invincible existence. Chu Fengmian, so what if you have broken through? Not to mention that you have only broken through, even if you have truly stepped into the Emperor realm, you still won't be able to change your fate today. Let's see how you will block this palm. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed wildly. Just now, Chu Fengmian had already used everything he had to block that palm strike. Now that Chu Fengmian had broken through, Chu Fengmian was also in a difficult situation. Without these opportunities, what could Chu Fengmian do? Chu Fengmian didn't answer the Demon Emperor, but the murderous intent in his eyes intensified as he muttered to himself. Juk, it has been 10,000 years. It's time for you to make a move. Chu Fengmian's ancestral Dragon Supreme sword suddenly fell into his left hand. Chu Fengmian's empty ring suddenly opened, and the Juk godly sword fell into his right hand. This is... What is Chu Fengmian trying to do? Could it be that he wants to use the Juk godly sword? Seeing Chu Fengmian's actions, countless people looked at him in confusion. Chapter 1002. Impossible. This kid can't possibly use the Titanic Gate godly sword. The Titanic Gate godly sword has been sealed by the Tianjian sect. Apart from the disciples of the Tianjian sect, no one else can use it. Spiritual Master Jian sneered at Chu Fengmian. Even if Chu Fengmian took out the Titanic Gate godly sword, it would be meaningless. However, in the next moment, the sword intent emitted from the Titanic Gate godly sword slapped his face until it was swollen. The Titanic Gate godly sword actually appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. Did this mean that Chu Fengmian could use the Titanic Gate godly sword? Surprised? Chu Fengmian seemed to be talking to himself, but also seemed to be answering Spiritual Master Jian's question. The Titanic Gate godly sword was the most precious treasure of the Tianjian sect. The Tianjian sect had only taken the Titanic Gate godly sword from Chu Fengmian's fourth senior brother 10,000 years ago. Now, they still dared to call the Titanic Gate godly sword the most precious treasure of the Tianjian sect. Awaken, Titanic Gate. Chu Fengmian looked at the Titanic Gate godly sword and whispered to himself. The Titanic Gate godly sword was currently in a sealed state. Those useless people of the Tianjian sect were not qualified to use it. That was why the Titanic Gate godly sword was sealed. Sensing Chu Fengmian's sword intent, the Titanic Gate godly sword slowly began to awaken. The sword edge on the surface was more than 10 times stronger than when it was in Jian Zhanxian's hand. The two ancient words Titanic Gate on the surface also became dazzling. Demon Emperor, do you think you've won? Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the Demon Emperor. His body moved, and he suddenly soared into the sky. Above Chu Fengmian's head, a group of demons were dancing wildly. In the hearts of these demons, the Doomsday Demon Palm had already fallen. What? What difference does it make if you have one more spiritual weapon? Even if I gave you 100 heaven-grade spiritual weapons, you still wouldn't be my opponent. The Demon Emperor sneered. A crack suddenly appeared on the tip of his finger, and drops of demonic blood flowed out from it. The drops of demonic blood turned into balls of purple demonic flames in the air. They surrounded the Doomsday Demon Palm. As the Doomsday Devil Palm enveloped Chu Fengmian, countless devilish flames began to burn Chu Fengmian. In the heart of this power, two sword lights that shook the heavens suddenly erupted. Hiss hiss hiss. The boundless void was about to be torn apart by the two sword lights. The sharpness of this sword gleam was beyond anyone's imagination. The moment they saw this sword gleam, countless people couldn't think of anything that could stop the sharpness of this sword gleam. Obelisk, Ancestral Dragon, dual swords break the heavens. Chu Fengmian rose from the sky with two spiritual swords in his hands. I am the sword god. Sword intent was all added to these two spiritual swords. Others might not know how strong I, the sword god Sword Dao was, but Chu Fengmian knew him well. He had never reached this level in his previous life. This sword was directed at the origin of the Sword Dao, the purest sword. 7 incarnations and you dare to be so impudent in front of me? Even if your Nirvana divine physique has attained mastery and condensed 9 incarnations, you will still be slain by my sword today. Chu Fengmian's sword aura swept across the heavens. The group of demons in the sky were all blown up the moment they touched this sword aura. With one sword, the group of demons was annihilated. Even the doomsday demonic palm had a crack cut through its heart. It was split into 2 and shattered in the air. This doomsday devil palm was easily destroyed by Chu Fengmian's sword edge. Even these 2 sword auras began to approach the demon emperor. The faces of the 7 demon emperors all revealed a panicked expression. You can actually break my doomsday devil palm? The demon emperor's face, which had always been calm, disappeared and was replaced by a bit of panic. His expression, which had been unchanged for a long time, finally revealed panic, which represented the demon emperor's current state of mind. He never dreamed that Chu Fengmian could burst out with such strength and break his doomsday devil palm. Once the doomsday devil palm was broken, more than half of his demonic will was consumed, and he began to retreat. Damn it! Damn it! I don't believe that you are really so monstrous. Today, I have 7 incarnations. I don't believe that I can't kill you. The demon emperor roared crazily, his eyes filled with madness. He didn't believe that he would be defeated by Chu Fengmian. He was completely crazy, fighting like a cornered beast, and wanted to fight to the death with Chu Fengmian. The 7 demon emperors attacked at the same time, bombarding Chu Fengmian from all directions, wanting to besiege him. However, the moment these 7 figures approached Chu Fengmian only turned the tip of his sword and slashed out again. The 2 incarnations of the demon emperors behind Chu Fengmian were shattered in the air. Their essence blood floated in the air and turned into a cloud of blood mist. Under one sword, the 2 incarnations of the demon emperors fell on the spot. Invincible? Demon Emperor, you claim to be invincible? Today, I have broken your invincibility. I was born against the heavens. Even if you have the destiny, you will still die in the end. Chu Fengmian took another step forward, and the titanic crescent sword once again slashed at the 2 incarnations of the demon emperors in front of him. This time, the demon emperors were prepared, and they had already gathered their demon will to resist. However, in front of the titanic crescent sword, all the resistance was meaningless. The demon will was broken first, and then the 2 incarnations fell under Chu Fengmian's sword. 3 of the 7 incarnations had fallen on the spot. Moreover, these 3 incarnations could be the real body of the demon emperor, and they could be mixed in. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and the essence blood of the 4 incarnations of the demon emperors were devoured by Chu Fengmian. The incarnations condensed by the Nirvana divine body required a lot of effort, and they also needed to be cultivated. Devouring the essence blood of each incarnation of the demon emperors was no less than devouring the essence blood of a supreme ancestor. The divine tree felt the essence blood Chu Fengmian devoured, and it shook with joy. It began to devour the essence blood madly, and began to heal Chu Fengmian's injuries. Chu Fengmian's broken body was completely healed by the essence blood. Even the trunk of the divine tree became thicker and tougher. How could this be? The demon emperor is going to lose? What kind of power is this? How could Chu Fengmian's strength suddenly become so much stronger? Many of the warriors in the spectators' stand had not recovered from the shock. The reversal of the situation was too fast. Chu Fengmian, who was on the verge of death and was about to die, suddenly burst out with such terrifying power. With 2 swords, he killed 4 incarnations of the demon emperor. Now, the remaining 3 incarnations of the demon emperor could only struggle at death's door. In everyone's hearts, the demon emperor, who was already invincible, was defeated. he was defeated by Chu Fengmian's sword. Chapter 1003. The Demon Emperor's expression was extremely crazy as he watched his incarnations shatter one by one. Although his Nirvana divine body was enough to create incarnations, once they were destroyed, he would never be able to condense them again. The Nirvana divine body could condense a total of 9 incarnations. Now that 5 of them had been destroyed by Chu Fengmian, it meant that Chu Fengmian had destroyed half of the Nirvana divine body's power. How could the Demon Emperor accept this? Kill! I'm going to kill you! The remaining 3 Demon Emperors on the arena suddenly attacked together. They gathered their spiritual power and planned to bombard Chu Fengmian. However, even the 7 incarnations of the Demon Emperor were no match for Chu Fengmian when they were all present, let alone now when there were only 3 left. The sword in Chu Fengmian's hand flashed and slashed out. The power of the 3 incarnations was shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword. You want to kill me? Even if I can't kill your real body today, you're no different from a piece of trash after losing your 7 incarnations. I'll kill all your incarnations first. Chu Fengmian looked at the Demon Emperor and said coldly. With a wave of his hand, the sword flashed again and 3 rays of sword chi immediately slashed at the 3 incarnations of the Demon Emperor. As long as Chu Fengmian killed these 3 incarnations, the Demon Emperor would only have 1 incarnation and 1 real body left. The threat to Chu Fengmian would be reduced by a lot. After this battle, the Demon Emperor's strength would also improve by leaps and bounds. If Chu Fengmian didn't get a great opportunity next time, it was very likely that he wouldn't be a match for the Demon Emperor in the next battle. Chu Fengmian must kill these 3 incarnations today. Chu Fengmian, you forced me to do this. Seeing Chu Fengmian's attack, the Demon Emperor's eyes revealed a bit of coldness and cruelty. Demon blood, erupt. The Demon Emperor hadn't used the demon blood that entered Chu Fengmian's body through the sword totem. Originally, the Demon Emperor planned to severely injure Chu Fengmian first and then use the demon blood to directly control Chu Fengmian. However, he didn't care about that now. What he wanted now was Chu Fengmian to die. Only Chu Fengmian's death could quell his anger. Chu Fengmian, do you really think that I have no way to deal with you? Now, it's time for you to taste the feeling of your body exploding with demonic blood. Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. I'll torture you well. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed sinisterly. He could feel that the demonic blood in Chu Fengmian's body had begun to boil, gradually colliding with each other from Chu Fengmian's body. Devil blood? Chu Fengmian's lips suddenly curled into a cold smile. The moment he saw the sneer, the Demon Emperor instinctively felt that something was wrong. His spiritual senses moved and he suddenly sensed that the drop of demon blood in Chu Fengmian's body had completely disappeared. The demon blood that was boiling in Chu Fengmian's body a moment ago disappeared in an instant. How is that possible? How is that possible? Knowing this result, the Demon Emperor's expression was somewhat sluggish. Once the devil blood fused into one's bloodline, even a supreme ancestor would not be able to expel it. But now, the demonic blood had disappeared from Chu Fengmian's body. Is this the demon blood you're talking about? Under the Demon Emperor's incredulous gaze, a drop of purple demon blood slowly appeared from Chu Fengmian's fingertip. Demon Emperor, do you think I don't know that you're scheming against me? All your plans are meaningless in front of me. Now, are you ready to meet your death? Chu Fengmian looked at the Demon Emperor and said coldly. The sword in his hand slashed towards the Demon Emperor without hesitation. Damn it! Attack! The Demon Emperor roared crazily. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to the spectator stands. Boom! The ancient gladiator arena suddenly spun as countless spiritual energies bombarded the ancient gladiator arena. The restriction of the ancient gladiator arena was shattered on the spot by the spiritual energies. 4 figures suddenly fell into the ancient gladiator arena and joined forces to resist Chu Fengmian's sword. The Demon Emperor's 3 incarnations were shrouded in demonic intent and protected within it. The entire ancient gladiator arena had turned into a demonic domain at this moment. This power? How dare they make a move in the ancient gladiator arena? This sudden turn of events startled Chu Fengmian. His eyes revealed a hint of graveness. The four figures in the ancient gladiator arena were all immortal realm supreme ancestors of the Six Paths Demon Sect. Chu Fengmian didn't expect the Six Paths Demon Sect to be so arrogant as to interfere in the Nine Regions Genius battle and destroy the restriction of the ancient gladiator arena to save the Demon Emperor. The sudden change stunned countless martial artists in the spectator stand. The Nine Regions Genius battle had been passed down since ancient times, and such a thing had never happened before. They actually interfered in the Nine Regions Genius battle. How arrogant. It seems like the Six Paths Demon Sect won't let Chu Fengmian kill all of the Demon Emperor's incarnations. Won't the Seven Sects interfere? If it was someone else, the Seven Sects would definitely interfere. However, the one the Six Paths Demon Sect is targeting is Chu Fengmian. I'm afraid the Seven Sects won't interfere. Countless pairs of eyes looked towards the Seven Sections. The Nine Regions Genius battle had always been supervised by the Seven Sects, but now, the experts of the Seven Sects pretended to be ignorant. Clearly, they had no intention of interfering. In fact, even the Seven Sects were planning to borrow the power of the Six Paths Demon Sect to kill Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian saw all of this. How ruthless. The Demon Emperor guessed that the Seven Sects wouldn't interfere. He actually came to interfere in the Nine Regions Genius battle. Chu Fengmian naturally understood everything when he saw the reactions of the people around him. If Chu Fengmian hadn't acted quickly, he wouldn't have been able to kill the four incarnations. Rules. In the face of absolute power, rules weren't worth mentioning. Even the rules of the Nine Regions Genius battle that had been passed down for generations were trampled on by the Demon Emperor. But was he going to leave now? Chu Fengmian had already fought to this point. If he left now, the champion of the Nine Regions Genius battle would still belong to the Demon Emperor. All of Chu Fengmian's efforts would be in vain. In Chu Fengmian's heart, the word retreat had never existed. Chu Fengmian, weren't you very arrogant earlier? I'd like to see how arrogant you can be now. In the end, you're just a kid with some luck. You're not worth mentioning in front of me. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian, then suddenly turned to the four ancestors of the Six Paths Demon Sect. Capture him and bring him back to the Six Paths Demon Sect. I'll torture him. Chapter 1004. Mod said coldly as he swept his gaze across the crowd. He had also guessed that even if he used the power of the six demon gates to deal with Chu Fengmian, no one from the Seven Sects would stop him. The Seven Sects' desire to kill Chu Fengmian was no less than Mod's. Chu Fengmian's strength had already grown to the level of a Wushang ancestor. If he was allowed to obtain the rewards of the Nine Regions Genius battle, his achievements would be even more terrifying. The Seven Sects didn't want Chu Fengmian to leave alive. Is there no rule in the Nine Regions Genius battle? Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the seven sections. Seeing Chu Fengmian's gaze, the Wushang ancestors of the Seven Sects pretended that it was none of their business. This was their attitude. Rules? Chu Fengmian, I didn't expect you to be so naive. In the Nine Regions, strength is the rule. Mod looked at Chu Fengmian with disdain and shouted. What are you waiting for? Take him down. Yes. Hearing Mod's words, the four Wushang ancestors standing beside him didn't hesitate and attacked at the same time. Any one of the four Wushang ancestors was a figure that stood at the peak of the Nine Regions. Now, the four of them were attacking Chu Fengmian at the same time. They gathered layers of spiritual energy and wanted to suppress Chu Fengmian on the spot. Are the six demon gates going to suppress Chu Fengmian on the spot? This is too crazy. Aren't they afraid of being cursed by the world? Cursed? Who dares to curse? With the strength of the six demon gates, who dares to curse them? The martial artists on the spectators' stand were stunned when they heard this. Even the four Wushang ancestors of the six demon gates on the spectators' stand didn't dare to curse the six demon gates. In the 9 regions, strength was everything. Little guy, don't waste your energy struggling. Going against the 6 demon sects is the worst decision you've ever made in your life. Today, the people of the 7 sects will not save you. You can't fight against us alone. One of the Wushang ancestors of the 6 demon gates looked at Chu Fengmian with a sinister smile. His arm suddenly emerged from his black robe. That arm was not a fleshly body, but rather, ghastly white bones. It looked like a skeleton hidden beneath the black robe. Withered Bones Demon Venerable. It's Withered Bones Demon Venerable. Isn't this person the Grand Elder of 9 Demon City? He actually joined the 6 Paths Demonic Gates and left 9 Demon City? The 4 ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon Gate had been hiding in their black robes all this time. Therefore, at that time, the cultivators present did not see their appearances clearly. But now, when they attacked, their identities were instantly exposed. Dry Bones, don't waste your breath on him. Capture him and bring him back to the Sage Sect. This person killed 5 of the Sage Emperor's incarnations. We must get them back from him. Another supreme progenitor beside the withered bone demon Highness spoke. The boundless patriarch was a young, devilishly beautiful man, and yet, as soon as the onlookers caught sight of him, their hearts turned cold. 1,000 transformations, young master. Although this person was not a supreme elder of the 9 Demon City, he was still a famous figure in the Devil Tao, a devil of his generation. Even the 7 major sects were not willing to provoke him. As for the other 2 Wushang old ancestors, everyone could tell who they were. Demon Highness Gili and Demon Highness 9 Abyss were famous figures in the demonic Tao. These people were already standing at the peak of the demonic Tao, yet they were now willing to submit to the Demon Emperor and work for him. Kid, the more you struggle, the more painful it will be. Anyway, it's meaningless. Why don't you put up a meaningless resistance? Demon Highness Gili looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. He looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was looking at a prey. His ghostly claws were already closing in on Chu Fengmian. The 4 supreme progenitors, the overlords of the demonic Tao, besieged Chu Fengmian in the arena. Under such circumstances, Chu Fengmian did not have any way to retreat. Is Chu Fengmian going to fall just like that? Such a genius is just a flash in the pan? A supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian and couldn't help but sigh. Chu Fengmian's strength was too dazzling. It overshadowed all the other geniuses. Even the Demon Emperor, who had reached the 12th level of the Heaven's Chosen Stone, was no match for Chu Fengmian. However, such a monstrous genius was going to die today. The 4 supreme progenitors, all of whom were famous figures among the supreme progenitors, were besieging Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's chances of survival were close to 0. The birth of a monstrous genius is bound to be envied by the heavens. Another Wushang progenitor shook his head. If Chu Fengmian died today, they would feel pity, but they would not do anything. After all, Chu Fengmian was not a member of their sect. Even if they saved Chu Fengmian, it would be meaningless. Instead, they would have to bear the wrath of the 6 Paths Demon Gate. The only ones who could save Chu Fengmian were the 7 major sections. But now, the 7 major sects wanted Chu Fengmian dead the most. Chu Fengmian, if you are willing to be the sword wielder of the Tianjian sect, I will guarantee your safety today. Suddenly, an ancient voice came from the sky. Spiritual Master Jian Ke slowly spoke from the Tianjian sect. This is your only chance now. As long as you agree, the Tianjian sect will protect you. What? At this moment, no one had expected Master Sky Sword to say something like this. Among the 7 major sects, the Tianjian sect and the Desolate Ancient sect had the deepest grudges with Chu Fengmian. At a time like this, the Tianjian sect actually chose to rope in Chu Fengmian. However, when some people heard the word sword wielder, their eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. Sword wielder? This was not roping in. This was looting a burning house. Sword wielder had a nice name. In other words, he would become a slave of the Tianjian sect. He would have to work for the Tianjian sect for the rest of his life and would never betray the Tianjian sect. At a time like this condition was only slightly better than letting Chu Fengmian die. In fact, becoming a slave was even more unacceptable than death. Sword wielder? Tianjian sect? I have said that one day, the Tianjian sect will also be trampled by me. Join the Tianjian sect? You are not worthy. Chu Fengmian looked at spiritual master Jian Ke and said word by word. You are not worthy. Not to mention a sword wielder, even if Chu Fengmian was asked to go to the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect, Chu Fengmian wouldn't go. To him, the only value of the Tianjian sect was destruction. All right. Spiritual master Jian Ke looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. In that case, please. The 7 major sects will not interfere in today's matter. After receiving spiritual master Jian Ke's affirmation, the 4 patriarchs of the 6 demonic sects became even more unscrupulous. Kill! The 4 Wushang progenitors of the 6 demon sects made their moves simultaneously. Chapter 1005. Heavenly Demon Palm. Everyone is a demon. The 4 supreme ancestors of the 6 paths demon gate made their moves in an instant. Their first move was an absolute killer move. They had seen the battle between Chu Fengmian and the Demon Emperor, so they knew that Chu Fengmian's potential was too terrifying. Chu Fengmian's strength had been rising steadily in the battles of life and death. Therefore, the 4 supreme ancestors used their absolute killer moves, not giving Chu Fengmian any chance to delay or resist. They defeated Chu Fengmian in an instant and brought him back to the 6 paths demon gate. Demons danced wildly as endless demon gods condensed. As the demon will descended, it bombarded Chu Fengmian. Come on, if you want to fight. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold. He held 2 spiritual swords, one on the left and one on the right. Suddenly, sword light shot out in all directions. 2 sword lights soared into the sky. Break! These 2 sword lights were sharper than when they had just defeated the Demon Emperor, and the power they contained was also more terrifying. The battle dragon bloodline in Chu Fengmian's body was boiling. The power contained in the incarnation of the Demon Emperor was no less than that of a supreme ancestor. Chu Fengmian killed the 4 incarnations of the Demon Emperor and devoured them, which was equivalent to him devouring the power of 4 supreme ancestors. His current strength had undergone an earth-shattering change since just a moment ago. Chu Fengmian's strength would reach a new level every time he went through a battle. As long as Chu Fengmian could pass this test, he was confident that he could break through to the Fate Realm. Sword break! 2 streaks of sword chi pierced through the clouds and suddenly exploded. The sharp sword chi swept through everything. Countless demon gods exploded under the sharpness of the sword light, filling the sky with a bloody mist. What a powerful sword light! This person's strength is not at the same level as before. Withered Bones Demon Master and 9 Abyss Demon Master were shocked by Chu Fengmian's sword light. In such a short period of time, Chu Fengmian's strength had increased so much just by going through a battle. They had seen Chu Fengmian's strength increase after each battle with their own eyes. His growth speed was faster than the Demon Emperor's. This kid must not be allowed to live. The 1,000 Transformations Prince looked at Chu Fengmian with killing intent in his eyes. Try to capture him alive. If you can't, kill him on the spot. The 1,000 Transformations Prince coldly spoke. They had already changed their minds. Although capturing Chu Fengmian alive would give them the most benefits, it would also give Chu Fengmian an opportunity to take advantage of, so they wouldn't dare to use their full strength. However, with Chu Fengmian's growth, they couldn't give him any more chances. Don't show mercy. Kill! Killing intent gathered in Demon Marshal Geely's eyes. He took the initiative to attack. Demonic aura surged around him. The demonic will turned his hands into pitch-black demonic claws. The moment the 2 devil claws were condensed, the world suddenly changed color, and ghosts and gods cried. As long as one was slightly tainted by the devil will contained in the claws, a ruler would die on the spot without any chance of survival. The moment the 2 demonic claws were formed, they locked onto Chu Fengmian and sealed off the space around him, leaving him no way out. Suddenly, they enveloped Chu Fengmian and clawed at his chest. This was an absolute killing move. Even a supreme ancestor would die on the spot if he couldn't withstand it. The moment the two demonic claws fell, Chu Fengmian's eyes turned solemn. This battle wasn't inferior to the battle between him and the Demon Emperor, it was even more dangerous. For supreme ancestors, famous figures of the 9 regions, besieged Chu Fengmian. This was a sure-death situation. However, even if it was a sure-death situation, Chu Fengmian would still break it. Titanic Fault. Chu Fengmian called out. The Titanic Fault divine sword in Chu Fengmian's hand began to tremble. It wasn't trembling out of fear, but excitement. For 10,000 years, the Titanic Fault divine sword hadn't unleashed its true power. Now that it finally returned to Chu Fengmian's hand, the Titanic Fault divine sword was extremely excited. Boom! When the Titanic Fault divine sword's power was condensed to the extreme, Chu Fengmian suddenly moved. He held the Titanic Fault divine sword in his hand and slashed out. A total of 10,000 sword rays shot out from the tip of the sword. Whoosh! 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 100,000 sword rays shot up into the sky and formed a huge sword formation above Chu Fengmian's head. At the center of the sword formation was the Titanic Fault divine sword. Under the sharp sword rays, the demonic intent that filled the sky was continuously cut down. Destroy! Chu Fengmian shouted the word destroy. The sword formation started from the heart. Sword rays shot out in all directions and slashed at the two demonic claws. 100,000 sword rays instantly slashed at the demonic claws. The two demonic claws began to collapse in the air and the demonic intent scattered in all directions. What? The demonic claws were broken and Demon Venerable Gili was forced to retreat by the power of the sword formation. His eyes were filled with shock. This move was his strongest killing move. He had planned to kill Chu Fengmian in one blow. However, Chu Fengmian blocked it. It was simply unbelievable. Demon Venerable Gili's eyes were filled with killing intent. The more demonic Chu Fengmian was, the more determined his killing intent was. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill him. Do you want him to grow and become a huge threat to our 6 paths demonic gate? Hearing this, the eyes of the other 3 martial ancestors became firm as they gathered their murderous intent. Withered Bone Divine Spear. Demon Mountain Transformation. Heaven and Earth Change. Withered Bone Demon Venerable, 1000 Change Prince, 9 Abyss Demon Venerable. The 3 demonic Dao giants no longer hesitated and immediately attacked. In order to deal with Chu Fengmian, they did not plan to show any mercy. The 4 supreme ancestors used their full strength and unleashed their ultimate killing moves. With the 3 of them working together, compared to Demon Venerable Gili's previous attack, the pressure was many times stronger. Chu Fengmian's eyes were solemn. Under such pressure, even an emperor would not be able to resist. Even Chu Fengmian felt a sense of danger under such pressure. Sword shattering heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian condensed the spiritual energy of the 2 spiritual swords to the extreme. At the moment when the 3 forces exploded, he immediately attacked. Boom! The 2 sword rays and the 3 demonic intents clashed in the air. The power that erupted shattered the ancient arena's seal. In an instant. Chapter 1006. He didn't die. What a fast movement technique. Seeing the afterimage being destroyed on the spot, the martial artists in the stands thought that Chu Fengmian was dead for sure. After all, even the old ancestors might not be able to escape from the joint attack of 3 of them, but Chu Fengmian was able to do so. Oh? This kid's identity is really strange. What a fast speed. He's only in his early 20s, where did he get such a fast movement technique? Withered Bones Demon Venerable looked at Chu Fengmian with surprise. One should know that Chu Fengmian was only in his early 20s, but his swordsmanship and his countless encounters were already enough to shock people. But now, even Chu Fengmian's movement technique was so fast. Even if Chu Fengmian started learning in his mother's womb, he might not be able to master all of them. Monstrous, truly monstrous. The Thousand Transformations Prince sighed as he watched Chu Fengmian's figure traversing through the ancient gladiator arena. When they saw Demon Emperor before, they thought that he was the most monstrous genius in the 9 regions. But now, Demon Emperor's brilliance dimmed a lot when compared to Chu Fengmian. But this guy's strength has already reached the limit. He can't compete with us. He won't be able to run far in this arena. Kill! 9 Abyss Demon Venerable's eyes were even more ferocious. The other 3 martial ancestors nodded in agreement. An enemy like Chu Fengmian must be beheaded. Today, Chu Fengmian must not be given any chance. My strength is enough to compete with 1 old ancestor, or even 2 old ancestors. But if the 4 of them join forces, I won't have a chance of winning. Chu Fengmian constantly executed phantom body technique, shuttling through the void of the arena. On the other hand, he was frowning. The 4 old ancestors joining forces was indeed terrifying. Moreover, the 4 of them were experts of the old ancestors. Chu Fengmian was facing Demon Emperor. No matter how strong Demon Emperor was, his realm was the same as Chu Fengmian's, the refined heart realm. However, these 4 old ancestors were all true immortal realm experts. Their immortal realm strength had brought them earth-shattering changes. The 9th step of the life and death steps, the immortal realm. Ancestor Wu's strength had reached such a level. If someone can help me stall 2 of them, I can defeat them one by one. But who can do it? Chu Fengmian's gaze was solemn. If it wasn't for the fact that Chu Fengmian didn't have any friendship with him, or that they weren't his enemies, then they wouldn't have been able to kill him. Gu Jin's strength was too weak, it was meaningless. If Chu Fengmian were to fight these 4 ancestors one by one, he would be able to defeat them one by one. However, the 4 supreme ancestors had obviously seen through Chu Fengmian's thoughts. They would not give Chu Fengmian any chance to defeat them one by one. The 4 of them attacked together. Chu Fengmian couldn't even turn around to block. He could only use his phantom movement technique to stall for time. However, this was an arena, an ancient arena. If they were in the outside world of the 9 realms, Chu Fengmian would have been able to stall for time. However, in this arena, Chu Fengmian felt that he was about to reach the edge of the arena. Gradually, he was forced into a corner by the 4 old ancestors. No matter how big the arena was, there was still a boundary. Now, Chu Fengmian was forced into the boundary. Great, he can't escape. Seeing Chu Fengmian being forced into the boundary, the 4 old ancestors' eyes were filled with excitement. Kid, run away. I'd like to see where you can run to. Withered Bones Demon Venerable looked at Chu Fengmian and said ferociously. As an old ancestor, he had to spend so much effort to chase after a heart-refining realm martial artist. This made him extremely annoyed. Now that he had finally forced Chu Fengmian into a dead end, his anger instantly erupted. Withered Bones, now is not the time to act on impulse. This is a good opportunity. Let's capture this kid and suppress him first. 9 Abyss Demon Venerable looked at Chu Fengmian and suddenly attacked. A surge of spiritual energy shot out from 9 Abyss Demon Venerable's palm at lightning speed, forming a huge demonic palm in the air. The moment the demonic palm formed, Chu Fengmian felt that his spiritual energy was suppressed and he was under great pressure. It took a lot of effort to use his spiritual energy. It was as if they were about to be suppressed by this demonic palm. 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. Seeing the demonic god of 6 paths on the surface of the demonic palm, Chu Fengmian's face turned gloomy. This was the most powerful sealing technique of the 6 paths demon sect. It seemed like the 4 old ancestors were going to capture Chu Fengmian alive. Chu Fengmian felt that he could never break the power of the 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. Looking at the approaching 6 Demons God Sealing Palm, Chu Fengmian's phantom body technique was pushed to the extreme. He turned into countless shadows and fled in all directions. Every shadow looked exactly the same, making it impossible to tell which one was the real Chu Fengmian. Still trying to escape? Stay! Withered Bones Demon Venerable sneered when he saw the countless shadows fleeing. dense white bones suddenly fell from the sky and turned into a barrier. Countless illusionary figures were blocked by the eerie white bones, unable to leave. At this moment, Thousand Change Prince and Gili Demon Venerable's power were also added to the 6 demons' god sealing palm. The 6 demon gods on the surface of the 6 demons' god sealing palm were suddenly awakened by this power. They were even more powerful and roared as they fell toward Chufengmian. Chufengmian had nowhere to run. When the martial artists on the spectator stand saw this, their faces changed drastically. Then, they could only sigh. Chufengmian is going to lose. Chufengmian is going to be recorded in history by fighting against 4 old ancestors alone. It's a pity that Chufengmian provoked someone he shouldn't have. Everyone looked at Chufengmian with pity in their eyes. However, even if Chufengmian was besieged, it was because his skills were not as good as others. He couldn't blame others for his defeat. Good. Good. Reverend Jian Ke and the other ancestral patriarchs of the Sky Sword sect were all excited. Chufengmian's death meant that a big problem was removed for the Tianjian sect. However, spiritual master Jian Ke's eyes were filled with disbelief. Just as the 6 demons' god sealing palm was about to fall and suppress Chufengmian, suddenly, a dazzling light flew out from Chufengmian's body and rushed down. Chapter 1007. In the arena. Chufengmian was forced into a corner. Even the 4 great ancestors of the 6 demon sects felt that victory was in their hands. They looked at Chufengmian, imagining how he would be suppressed in the next second. At this moment, something unexpected happened. A dazzling light suddenly rushed out from Chufengmian's body and collided with the 6 demons' god sealing palm. Under everyone's gaze, the 6 demons' god sealing palm was smashed into pieces. Then, the dazzling light quickly retreated and fell into Chufengmian's arms. This sudden change was beyond everyone's imagination. Even Chufengmian was a little stunned. He did not expect this to happen so suddenly. However, when he saw the light falling into Chufengmian's arms, Chufengmian's eyes suddenly showed some joy. Lil 9. This light was none other than the innate divine beast that Chufengmian found in the spiritual spring of Tongtian Tower, Lil 9. This little guy had been sleeping on the divine tree all this time. It did not even wake up when Chufengmian fought with the demon emperor. Chufengmian almost forgot about this little guy's existence. He did not expect it to appear and break the 6 demons' god sealing palm. Lil 9's aura seems to be a little stronger than before. Chufengmian faintly felt that Lil 9's strength seemed to have increased. When it was just hatched, its strength should be around the Emperor realm. Now, Lil 9's strength was not much different from Great Ancestor Wu's. This made Chufengmian exclaim. Lil 9 was indeed an innate divine beast. Its strength could change drastically after sleeping. However, it just so happened that Chufengmian needed help. Lil 9's help would be a great help to Chufengmian. It's a demonic beast. Looking carefully at Lil 9 in Chufengmian's arms, the 4 great ancestors of the 6 demon sects looked a little embarrassed. A demonic beast that was comparable to Great Ancestor Wu's strength was also very troublesome for them. Withered Bones Demon Venerable and the others looked at Lil 9 with a serious expression. Lil 9's speed was so fast that even they could not see it clearly. Lil 9's strength was unquestionable to be able to break the 6 demons' god sealing palm. A demonic beast that was comparable to Great Ancestor Wu was worthy of their attention. What kind of demonic beast is this? I don't know. I don't think there are any records of him in the 9 regions. The 1000 Transformations young master shook his head. I didn't expect that this brat had such a demonic beast hidden in his body. No matter what, let's capture this brat and bring him back to the 6 Paths Demon Gate. The 4 supreme ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon sect exchanged glances with each other and made their moves. A demonic beast with the strength of a supreme ancestor was definitely one of the noblest demonic beasts in the 9 domains. Capturing him would bring them endless benefits. In fact, if they could devour Little 9's bloodline, their strength would increase by a notch. Mian, do you think a mere demonic beast can defeat you? We'll suppress this demonic beast first, then we'll suppress you. Withered Bones looked at Little Nine and instantly attacked. A sky full of bones shot towards Mian's arms. Seeing the sky full of bones, Mian instinctively wanted to attack. However, Little Nine's speed was shockingly fast. In an instant, he soared into the sky. Wherever the light passed, the white bones in the sky were all destroyed. Little Nine's light continued to bombard demonic Lord Withered Bone. So fast. This demonic beast is so fast. Not good. Quick, attack. 9 Abyss Demon Venerable, 1000 Transformations Young Master and Geely Demon Venerable's faces changed drastically. They had experienced Little Nine's strength before. He could even shatter the 6 demons' God-sealing palm. Their strength was much stronger than his. The 3 Demon Venerables attacked at the same time, arriving in front of the Withered Bones Demon Venerable in an instant. When Little Nine heard that he was called a demonic beast, his face was filled with anger, as if he had been insulted. His fleeing light suddenly turned blood red as he charged in the direction of the 4 progenitors within the blink of an eye. Boom! Under the impact, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. The 4 figures were all sent flying in an instant. This is Little Nine's strength? Mian was dumbfounded when he saw this. The combined strength of the 4 supreme ancestors was no match for Little Nine. One should know that Little Nine had only been born for half a month. How could he have grown to such a level? This legendary Xiantian divine beast was even more terrifying. No, Little Nine's spiritual energy is running out. Mian instinctively felt that Little Nine's aura seemed to have weakened after the continuous attacks. It was as if his strength had been depleted. Others might not know what was going on, but Mian knew it clearly. Little Nine was like a newborn in the land of Xiantian divine beasts. Although he was strong, he could not fight continuously. Although his strength could reach the level of several supreme ancestors in a short period of time. However, he could only attack a few times before his strength was depleted. This demonic beast's strength seems to be getting weaker. Not only Mian, the 4 supreme ancestors of the 6 demon sects also felt that Little Nine's strength was weakening. This gave them a chance to take a breather. Before Little Nine's strength, they were simply powerless to fight back. Now that they had a chance to take a breather, with their vitality, their injuries would be healed quickly. Let's catch this demonic beast first. This demonic beast must have an unusual identity. Let's devour its essence and blood, our strength will be further enhanced. Withered Bones Demon Venerable looked at Little Nine with greed in his eyes. He attacked again, condensing layers of white bones, surrounding Little Nine. Little Nine's escape light gradually slowed down, breaking through the layers of white bones. However, the white bones seemed to be endless. Gradually, they surrounded Little Nine, and suddenly, they condensed into a white bone pagoda. Suppress. The white bone pagoda suddenly suppressed Little Nine. However, at this moment, 2 dazzling sword lights suddenly swept across the entire arena. Under this sword light, the white bone pagoda around Little Nine suddenly collapsed and fell apart. Little Nine, come back. Mian called out softly. Chapter 1008. To Little Nine, this kind of battle was still a little too early. However, Little Nine's appearance had indeed helped Mian greatly. Mian looked at the 4 old ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon sect with murderous intent in his eyes. He, Mian, had never been forced into such a desperate situation in this life. The 4 old ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon sect had completely enraged Mian. 4 old fogies, are you ready to die? Mian said coldly. He didn't hide his murderous intent at all. You're still talking big when you're about to die. Kid, your demonic beast has lost all its strength. What makes you think you can fight us? Withered Bones sneered when he heard Mian's words. Little Nine had lost its strength. Mian's current situation wasn't any better. 1 against 4? No matter how heaven-defying Chu Fengmian was, he wouldn't be a match for the four of them. We've dragged this out for a long time. Let's not waste any more time talking to this kid. Otherwise, he might encounter something strange again. Let's suppress him first to prevent future troubles. Nine Abyss said coldly. Little Nine's appearance was already beyond their expectations. They weren't sure if Chu Fengmian would encounter something strange again. Suppressing Chu Fengmian was the most important thing. 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. Withered Bones attacked again with the 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. 9 Abyss, Thousand Change Prince, and Gili didn't hesitate to add their strength to the 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. Rumble! Rumble! Demonic intent surged and thunder rumbled. Kid, let's see who's going to save you this time. Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with a sinister smile. He hated Chu Fengmian to the core. He had been standing in the arena, waiting for the moment Chu Fengmian fell. Little Nine's sudden appearance had saved Chu Fengmian's life. However, this was the only time he could save Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was doomed to die this time. Suppress me? Just you 4 old fogies? Break! Facing the 6 Demons God Sealing Palm, Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. The Titanic Watchtower Godly Sword in his right hand suddenly emitted a strange sword light. The sword light gradually fused into Chu Fengmian's body. Extreme Sword Seal, open. In an instant, a dazzling sword light erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. Even Ancestor Wu could not see this sword light clearly. On Chu Fengmian's back, the mark of a spiritual sword that could penetrate heaven and earth flashed past. Extreme Sword Seal was the seal of the Lord of the Sword's Master. The true power of the Titanic Godly Sword could only be unleashed by opening the Extreme Sword Seal. Earlier, when Little Nine attacked, Chu Fengmian stood motionless in order to open the sword seal. Now that the seal had been opened, the true power of the Titanic Gate Godly Sword was revealed. For it to be called a godly sword, the power of the Titanic Gate Godly Sword was not as simple as it appeared. The Titanic Divine Sword's sword radiance supported Chu Fengmian's body. His realm was rising steadily. In the blink of an eye, Chu Fengmian had stepped into the Destiny Realm. You're dead meat this time. Chu Fengmian sneered. Although the heart-refining realm was only 1 level away from the Destiny Realm, it was the boundary between a great ancestor and an emperor. In terms of strength, 10 great ancestors in the heart-refining realm were no match for 1 emperor in the Destiny Realm. Under the support of the Titanic Divine Sword's sword radiance, Chu Fengmian felt that his strength began to rise dozens of times faster. It was the strength of an emperor. What's going on? Why did his strength suddenly rise? Withered Bones Demon Venerable, 1000 Transformations Prince, and the others were shocked. They also noticed that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the Heavenly Mandate Realm. Chu Fengmian in the Heart-Refining Realm could defeat Great Ancestor Wu. Once he stepped into the Destiny Realm, his strength would increase dozens of times. How terrifying would Chu Fengmian's strength be? Withered Bones Demon Venerable, 1000 Transformations Prince, and the others wanted to retreat. However, they couldn't when they looked at the Demon Emperor. They could only bite the bullet and attack. Forget it. Let's suppress him first. Boom! Withered Bones Demon Venerable and the others pushed their strength to the limit. Their spiritual energy, skills, and trump cards were all used to support the 6 Demons God Sealing Palm. The success or failure of this battle depended on this palm. No one can save the 4 of you today. You want to suppress me? All of you, break! Chu Fengmian held the Titanic Divine Sword and took a step forward. He faced the incoming 6 Demons God Sealing Palm and slashed out. The sword radiance split the sky and the earth. Even space was torn apart. Boom! The 6 Demons God Sealing Palm collided with the sword radiance and shattered on the spot. There was no stalemate. The combined power of the 4 of them was like an ant in front of Chu Fengmian. Not good. Withered Bones Demon Venerable and the others spat out a mouthful of blood. It wasn't blood red, but gold. Life Source Realm. This golden blood was their life essence blood, the foundation of their strength. Under Chu Fengmian's sword, they were forcibly shaken out. This would have an indelible impact on their strength. Let's retreat first. There's still time. This kid's strength has skyrocketed. He must have used some method. Anyway, the seven sects won't let him go. We don't have to fight to the death with this kid. Withered Bones Demon Venerable shouted. His figure retreated continuously. The remaining 1,000 transformations Prince, Geely Demon Venerable, and 9 Abyss Demon Venerable did the same. They didn't want to fight to the death with Chu Fengmian. Moreover, under the current situation, even if they died, they wouldn't be able to drag Chu Fengmian down with them. Demon Emperor, run! Withered Bones Demon Venerable quickly retreated and grabbed the remaining 3 incarnations of the Demon Emperor. He planned to break the restriction of the arena and leave. You still want to leave? Since you're all here, stay here. Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. With a sneer, Chu Fengmian moved. His escape light was dozens of times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Withered Bones Demon Venerable. However, Chu Fengmian didn't attack Withered Bones Demon Venerable. Instead, he slashed at the remaining 3 incarnations of the Demon Emperor with the Titanic Godly Sword. Apart from Withered Bones Demon Venerable and the others, the Demon Emperor was Chu Fengmian's greatest threat. Since Chu Fengmian couldn't kill the Demon Emperor's true body, he had to destroy his incarnations and reduce his talent to the minimum. Not good. Protect Demon Emperor. Demon Emperor, run. Chapter 1009. Chu Fengmian didn't care about the 4 ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon sect. He wanted to kill the Demon Emperor first. The remaining 3 incarnations of the Demon Emperor. Withered Bones Demon Venerable and the others had been famous experts for a long time. They had lived for thousands of years, which was why they had such strength. The Demon Emperor was only in his 30s, 10 years older than Chu Fengmian. With his Nirvana divine body, the Demon Emperor's strength would increase by 5 times compared to the other geniuses. Although Chu Fengmian couldn't kill the Demon Emperor today, he had to kill the other incarnations and destroy the Demon Emperor's Nirvana divine body. The Demon Emperor was frightened when he saw Chu Fengmian's sword. No matter how he calculated, Chu Fengmian would definitely die today. The 4 ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon sect were no match for Chu Fengmian. The Demon Emperor felt humiliated when he was defeated by Chu Fengmian. But now, he had been surpassed. He couldn't wait to kill Chu Fengmian. He had set up countless schemes, and today was the best opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian. He didn't want to give up. Leave now, Holy Emperor. He must die today. The 7 sects won't let him go. The Withered Bones Demon Venerable seemed to have guessed the Demon Emperor's thoughts and shouted at him. Hearing this, the Demon Emperor suddenly came to his senses. His face revealed a sinister expression as he shouted loudly. I admit, once he admitted defeat, the Demon Emperor would be teleported out of the arena and he could leave immediately. Chu Fengmian couldn't chase after him under the watch of the 7 sections. But when the Demon Emperor opened his mouth, suddenly, Chu Fengmian's sword chi began to change as it approached the Demon Emperor. In an instant, it turned into a rope. It wrapped around the Demon Emperor's mouth. No matter how hard the Demon Emperor tried, he couldn't say the last word of I admit defeat. You want to admit defeat? Do you think I'll give you the chance? You must kill all 3 of your incarnations today. Chu Fengmian shouted coldly and slashed out with his sword. Bang! Bang! 2 figures suddenly rushed in front of Chu Fengmian. The Withered Bones Archfiend and the 1,000 Transformations Prince rushed to the front of the Demon Emperor and gathered all of their spirit power to block Chu Fengmian's sword. You 2 pieces of trash dare to block my sword? Ju Kei! Chu Fengmian smiled disdainfully. The Titanic Gate Divine Sword in his hand was enraged. The Titanic Gate Divine Sword was filled with disdain, it had killed countless ancestral ancestors. How could Devil Sovereign Withered Bones and the Thousand Transformations Young Sir possibly block the Titanic Watchtower Godly Sword? The gigantic crescent Godly Sword's edge suddenly became 100 times sharper, and a terrifying sword chi rushed towards the sky. This sword chi was over 100,000 feet long. As soon as it appeared, it covered the sky and covered the earth. The Drybone Demon Sovereign and Thousand Change Prince were sucked into the sword chi, bearing the brunt of its sharpness. In the blink of an eye, the bodies of the two shattered in the air, turning into a lump of minced meat. It was unknown how many pieces they had been cut into by the sword chi. Even so, the two lumps of minced meat continued to fly outwards, trying to escape from the sword chi. With the ancestral ancestors' realm, they could recover even if only a finger was left. But how could Chu Fengmian give them a chance to escape? With a thought, Chu Fengmian's sword chi erupted into a terrifying storm. The Withered Bones Archfiend and the Thousand Transformations Prince's bodies were directly destroyed by the storm, leaving behind only a cloud of blood mist in the air. It could be said that they couldn't be more dead. Even an immortal realm ancestral ancestor couldn't be saved in such a manner. Devour! Chu Fengmian shouted, and the storm engulfed the Withered Bones Archfiend and the Thousand Transformations Prince's essence blood, completely devouring it. The two of them had been famous for a long time, old antiques who had lived for thousands of years. Their essence blood was extremely pure, several times stronger than that of the Demon Emperor's incarnation. As Chu Fengmian devoured them, the divine tree cheered and began to rapidly refine their essence blood. The Withered Bones Archfiend and the Thousand Transformations Prince. These two demonic Dao giants were famous ancestral ancestors in the 9 regions. Now, they had died in Chu Fengmian's hands. Run! Run! 9 Abyss Archfiend and Gili Archfiend were already scared out of their wits. The two of them didn't care about the Demon Emperor. With a flicker of their bodies, they broke through space and left the ancient arena without looking back. Of the 4 ancestral ancestors of the 6 Paths Demon Sect, 2 were dead and 2 fled. Only Chu Fengmian and the Demon Emperor's 3 incarnations were left in the arena. You. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with fear in his eyes. The Withered Bones Archfiend and the Thousand Transformations Prince had died in Chu Fengmian's hands. This was something he couldn't even imagine in his wildest dreams. Chu Fengmian was 10 years younger than him. But now, Chu Fengmian had completely surpassed him. All his confidence and dignity were mercilessly destroyed in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, how about I tell you a secret? Suddenly, the Demon Emperor's eyes glinted with a strange light. I know that you once went to the House of Storms. I also know who you met in the House of Storms. If you still want to see her, you must let me go. Otherwise, I'll make sure you never see her again. Others couldn't understand what he meant. But Chu Fengmian heard it clearly. She was referring to Luo Shi. Luo Shi is in the 6 Paths Demon Sect? Chu Fengmian stared coldly at the Demon Emperor. When he left the 9 Regions Genius Tournament, Luo Shi wanted to leave and return to the 6 Paths Demon Sect. Luo Shi's inheritance was in the 6 Paths Demon Sect. If she wanted to betray the 6 Paths Demon Sect, she had to get the Succubus Demon Sect's seat of inheritance. But now, it seemed that Luo Shi's identity had been exposed. What do you think? Chu Fengmian, let my 3 incarnations go today and I can promise you I'll spare her life. Otherwise, I'll kill her right now. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and said word by word. And I want you to admit defeat. Are you threatening me? Murderous intent flashed in Chu Fengmian's eyes. It had been a long time since anyone dared to threaten Chu Fengmian. So what if I'm threatening you? If you want Luo Shi to live, admit defeat and obediently come to the 6 Paths Demon Sect. The Demon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and said viciously. You know very well what you should do. The 6 Paths Demon Sect? I'll go. As soon as Chu Fengmian finished speaking, the tip of his sword suddenly locked onto the 3 incarnations of the Demon Emperor. Chapter 10:10. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly, ignoring Demon Emperor's threat. The sword in his hand suddenly moved, emitting dazzling sword light. The sword light pierced through Demon Emperor's 3 avatars without hesitation. What? The Demon Emperor couldn't understand why Chu Fengmian would actually attack and kill him at such a time. He didn't care about his threat at all. I, Chu Fengmian, have never been threatened in my life. Chu Fengmian said coldly. With a slash of his sword, Demon Emperor's 3 avatars shattered on the spot, turning into pure blood mist. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and devoured all of Demon Emperor's essence blood. Demon Emperor wanted to threaten Chu Fengmian to make him not dare to attack, but he was too naive. Given Chu Fengmian's character, no one could threaten him. Demon Emperor's threat only intensified Chu Fengmian's killing intent. Moreover, Chu Fengmian didn't believe that Demon Emperor could really kill Luo Shi. Luo Shi was wearing Venerable Kanglin's Kanglin immortal armor, and Chu Fengmian had left a force in her. If Luo Shi was in danger, Chu Fengmian would know. Therefore, Chu Fengmian knew that Luo Shi wasn't in much danger now. However, since Demon Emperor knew about the House of Storms, Luo Shi's current situation was not good. It seemed that Chu Fengmian had to make a trip to the 6 Paths demonic gates. Chu Fengmian had made up his mind. He had to go to the 6 Paths demonic gates. Luo Shi was his woman. If Luo Shi hadn't saved him in the House of Storms, Chu Fengmian might have died on the spot. Chu Fengmian had to go. So what if it was the 6 Paths demonic gates? Chu Fengmian would definitely rescue Luo Shi. Before that, there was one more thing he had to do. The reward of the 9 Regions Genius Battle. Chu Fengmian came to participate in the 9 Regions Genius Battle because of the reward. Demon Emperor, Jianwang, and the others came for the same reason. The 1 million Emperor Grade Spirit Stones were nothing to Chu Fengmian, so he naturally didn't care about it. However, Chu Fengmian had to obtain Tianchang's essence blood. The battle dragon technique that Chu Fengmian cultivated had almost completely transformed his bloodline into the ancient battle dragon's bloodline. Progenitor Jianwang was the progenitor of all dragons in this world, a connate divine beast. A drop of his essence blood was extremely useful to Chu Fengmian, even a great fortune. There was also the myriad treasure Heavenly Jade Talisman, which was an even more precious treasure. Chu Fengmian had to obtain both of these treasures. Once Chu Fengmian obtained these 2 treasures, his strength would be able to take another step forward. He might even be able to break through to the fate boundary and become a ruler. When Chu Fengmian defeated the 4 great ancestors from the 6 Paths demon sects, he displayed the strength of a ruler, but he relied on the Titanic Gate Divine Sword's sword light to forcefully support him. In reality, this power did not belong to Chu Fengmian. It was a power borrowed by Chu Fengmian, yet it was enough to erupt with such terrifying power. Once Chu Fengmian broke through to the Heaven's Mandate realm, his overall strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. Chu Fengmian, who could use the Titanic Gate Divine Sword's sword light, would be several times stronger. By then, Chu Fengmian would not be far from killing the 7 sects and avenging the Master of Sword Dao. While Chu Fengmian was thinking about his next move, the arena was also silent. Chu Fengmian's ruthlessness was beyond the expectations of countless people. They could not hear what the Devil Emperor and Chu Fengmian were talking about. However, judging from the Devil Emperor's expression, he seemed to be threatening Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian did not care at all and killed all of the Devil Emperor's clones on the spot. All of the Devil Emperor's clones had died in Chu Fengmian's hands. Although everyone knew that the Devil Emperor had a Nirvana divine body, he was still alive even if all of his clones were killed. However, Chu Fengmian was the only one left in the arena. After a long time, the ancient gladiator arena suddenly made an announcement. The champion of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament, Chu Fengmian. Everyone present knew that Chu Fengmian deserved the title. Chu Fengmian had defeated Jianwang and the Devil Emperor all the way. He had even defeated the joint forces of 4 forefathers by himself. This kind of strength was considered to be at the peak of the forefathers of the immortal realm. It would be abnormal if Chu Fengmian, with such strength, could not win the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. However, countless pairs of eyes looked at enlightened Jian and the 7 sections. For the past 10,000 years, the 9 Regions Genius Tournament had been controlled by the 7 sections. This time, Chu Fengmian had won first place in the 9 Regions Genius Tournament, which was a slap to the 7 sects' faces. Once the rewards were taken out, the 7 sects would bleed a lot. It's better to give out the rewards of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. Chu Fengmian stood on the arena and looked at Reverend Jian in the air as he slowly spoke. The rewards of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament should be in the hands of enlightened Jian Quebec. But now, it seemed that enlightened Jian had no intention of handing out the rewards. Could it be that the 7 sects want to go back on their word? Everyone in the stands could see that enlightened Jian actions were somewhat unusual. According to the previous tournaments of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament, the moment the champion was announced, the rewards would be sent directly to the arena. But this time, there was no such thing. Enlightened Jian eyes flickered as he faced Chu Fengmian, as if he was thinking about something. Even Chu Fengmian's eyes revealed a hint of a cold smile. It seemed that the 7 sects were planning to go back on their word in the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. Chu Fengmian, the Tianjian sect will not give you the rewards of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. Enlightened Jian looked at Chu Fengmian, his eyes flickering. The rewards of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament will not be given to an unknown person like you. Enlightened Jian deliberately looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Chu Fengmian, we've investigated you. Your identity is very strange. Tell us, where did you come from? As long as you tell us who you are, we will give you the rewards of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. Tell me who I am? I am Chu Fengmian. Don't you know? Chu Fengmian looked at enlightened Jian and said coldly. Chapter 10-11. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed coldly at enlightened Jian words. It seemed that the people from the 7 great sects had seen through some clues. Chu Fengmian's rise was too shocking. A year ago, Chu Fengmian was still an unknown figure in a remote country called Wuxing Nation. A year later, Chu Fengmian was already standing on the stage of the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. He had even won first place. This kind of rising path was really too shocking. With the ability of the 7 great sects, it was naturally easy for them to find out all of this. His rate of growth was countless times faster than the Devil Emperor's. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian was able to use the Titanic Godly Sword to break the seal on the Titanic Godly Sword. All of this was enough to make the 7 great sects suspicious. However, Chu Fengmian wouldn't admit that he was once the disciple of the Lord of Sword Dao. If the 7 great sects found out that Chu Fengmian was the Lord of Sword Dao's disciple, the Sword Dao sect's Wushang forefather wouldn't let Chu Fengmian off. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid. Quietly, Chu Fengmian began to gather spiritual power. His current strength was no longer that of a junior who could be trampled on. Even the 7 great sects would have to pay a great price to kill Chu Fengmian. We don't care about such a trivial reward. Enlightened Jian looked at Chu Fengmian with murderous intent. He was already guessing Chu Fengmian's identity. However, we can't create an enemy. Moreover, your origin is too strange. We suspect that you're a remnant of some ancient demonic sect, or even a spy of the Dragon Clan. Enlightened Jian looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Chu Fengmian, I'll give you a chance. Open your spiritual awareness and let us see. If you're not a spy of the ancient demonic sect or the Dragon Clan, the reward will still be yours even if you're an enemy of the 7 great sections. Open his spiritual awareness? Chu Fengmian's heart turned cold when he heard enlightened Jian words. Opening his spiritual awareness meant that he had to reveal all of his fortuitous encounters and all of his trump cards to everyone present. Chu Fengmian's fortuitous encounters alone were enough to make countless experts of the 9 domains view him as a piece of juicy meat. Moreover, once he opened his spiritual awareness, Chu Fengmian's identity might be exposed. Open spiritual awareness? There has never been such a rule in the 9 Regions Genius Tournament. There was anger in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Chu Fengmian's strength would increase by leaps and bounds once he obtained Tianchang's essence blood. When he truly stepped into the Heaven's Mandate realm, Chu Fengmian wouldn't even be afraid of being besieged by Wuxiang forefathers. But now, Taoist Jian Ke wanted to erase all of Chu Fengmian's benefits, not leaving him a single bit. Rules? The words of the 7 great sects are the rules. Chu Fengmian, do you think we will still bargain with you? Today, you don't have any other choice. Open your spiritual sense and let us check your identity. Enlightened Jian Ke looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. His words were like an order, not giving Chu Fengmian the slightest chance. The 9 Regions Genius Tournament had come to an end. In the ancient gladiator arena, the restrictions on the arena had also disappeared. The Wuxiang forefathers of the 7 great sects moved at the same time. Countless figures surrounded Chu Fengmian. There were a total of 27 figures around Chu Fengmian, all of them looking at him coldly. These figures were the Wuxiang forefathers of the 7 great sections. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if they were about to attack and kill Chu Fengmian at any moment. Clearly, the 7 great sects didn't intend to give Chu Fengmian a reward this time. They wanted to keep him in the arena forever. Open my spiritual sense? Impossible. Chu Fengmian looked at the Wuxiang forefathers of the 7 great sects with cold eyes. It seemed that the 7 great sects had long planned to deal with Chu Fengmian. 27 Wuxiang forefathers was a huge number for the 7 great sections. If it weren't for Chu Fengmian, they wouldn't have mobilized so many Wuxiang forefathers. Is that so? Then don't blame us. Before we get to the bottom of this, we'd better invite you to our 7 great sects as a guest. We'll naturally let you go after we get to the bottom of this. Enlightened Jian Ke's murderous intent surged. At this point, he no longer cared about the reputation of the 7 great sections. He was only suspicious of Chu Fengmian's identity, but the strength that Chu Fengmian had displayed was enough to make the 7 great sects wary. If Chu Fengmian had been considered a small nuisance in the past, then ever since Chu Fengmian had defeated the 6 Paths Demon sect and joined forces with the 4 Wuxiang patriarchs, Chu Fengmian had become a threat to the 7 great sections. This made enlightened Jian Ke want to kill Chu Fengmian. He couldn't let Chu Fengmian leave alive today. Visit the 7 great sects? Everyone present clearly understood that once Chu Fengmian went to the 7 great sects, the 7 great sects could casually fabricate an identity and kill Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian stood in the arena and looked at the faces of the 7 great sects with murderous intent. It seemed like the 7 great sects hadn't changed at all compared to 10,000 years ago. From the looks of it today, it was unlikely that he would be able to leave safely. Gu Jin, hurry up and leave. Chu Fengmian looked at Gu Jin, who was standing at the edge of the arena. With a thought, he summoned Yunyu Heavenly Palace and sent Gu Jin to Yunyu Heavenly Palace. Enlightened Jian Ke saw all of this, but he had no interest in stopping it. The only person they had to deal with was Chu Fengmian and Yunyu Heavenly Palace. Once Chu Fengmian fell, he wouldn't be a threat to the 7 great sects at all. After sending Gu Jin away, Chu Fengmian no longer had any scruples. He glanced at the Wuxiang progenitors around him and said word by word. Great, great. I didn't expect the 7 great sects to be so unruly. Rules? The words of the 7 great sects are the rules. Another Wuxiang forefather of the desolate ancient sect looked at Chu Fengmian malevolently and said, Kid, it's time for you to return what you stole from the desolate ancient sect. Chu Fengmian recognized this Wuxiang forefather of the desolate ancient sect. He was the one who had chased after Chu Fengmian in the Sacred Tree Realm. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.